Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We have a very special guest today. Could you do me a favor and introduce yourself?
Yes, my name's Richard Alba, formerly Richie of Pomona 12th Street.
Much love, G. Much love, and gracias for jumping on today.
Yeah, thank you for having me, bro.
So, if we could, I'd like to start from the very beginning,
Yes,
right?
sir.
So, how was your life growing up?
Wow, we just jump right into it. Let me tell you.
Yeah, right into it.
There you go, bro. That's how we do it. But man, let's see. That's a good question, bro. Cause me personally, I feel like I've lived a couple childhoods.
Yeah,
And I mean, that's what I really like about your show too, because I see that you give people a chance to express some of these things, and so at the same time, I feel like we're analyzing it, and I never really took time to do that. But so as I look back at my childhood, my early childhood, I feel like that's kind of what formed me into making a lot of destructive decisions in my life, and I say that because my dad, he was part of a gang as well. He was from the Harbor area, from North Side Redondo. So, he kind of moved out of his neighborhood a little bit, but not too much. So we lived in Torrance when I was coming up.
yeah,
And so, like in the area we grew up in, I don't even know. I mean, because, you don't pay attention to if it's gang infested and all that type of stuff, but there was a lot of kids there. So, I mean, we were outside a lot. So back in those days, kids, we used to actually play outside. And, we, we rode bikes and did things like that. So, but my dad, I mean, he had a lot of people over there because, and I don't want to put his business out there because it's hard for me to talk about my dad because, he provided for me and I love him, and it's like, at the same time, I feel like, we all have these scars and he put me through a lot of stuff, and,
yeah.
and so, I mean, I was exposed to a lot of things that maybe a lot of, like, I guess you would say normal kids. I mean,
Was he a younger father?
yeah, he was young. Yeah, I mean, when he was probably about like 18 or so, and which is not that young because nowadays we have kids younger. I had my first kid when I was 16, but I mean, he had a lot of guys around that were on drugs and like his homeboys. So I admired that though. Like the way I looked at that was like, I mean, I seen the camaraderie and I noticed that, like as I get older now, then I look back at it, it's like when you grow up in that lifestyle, which is that his homies, they show us a lot more love,
Yeah.
because you're like the homie's son too,
Yeah,
know?
little
So,
homie and shit.
yeah,
Yeah,
so it's like they want the best for you, like in their world, so it's like, they wanted me to be a boxer, so we had like boxing stuff set up in the backyard, and I'd be fighting with my cousins and their sons, and it's like, but what I always noticed is that he ran with this pack of guys, and they were really close, and that was something that, like I learned as I guess you could say a value, which was that you friendship,
Yeah.
it's loyalty, it's family. Like I didn't like he didn't call them friends, we called everybody Theo,
Yeah.
everybody was our uncle,
Yeah.
everybody was his brother or his relative, and so a lot of these dudes to this day, I don't even know if we're related or not, because to me they were family, so it's like, I know through marriage some of them are, but I feel a lot of those people that shaped me, they were, some of them were in prison, because I have an uncle that was in prison. So what I looked up to was, like these guys that were like, I guess you would say they were gangsters, and my definition of what I thought was a gangster back then, because there's a difference between gangbangers and gangsters,
Yeah.
like dudes that are gangsters, they take care of their families, you know what I mean? And it's like there's a code that we live by, and it's something you don't really flaunt, but it's a personality, a persona. And it's a trip because I was watching this documentary the other day, and it's about this third world country, but the definition of a gangster is basically like a free man,
Yeah.
like a person that does what they want, and that's within and without of the laws, So,
Yeah.
so I mean, it's like, so I see my dad getting it the way he knew how, bro, and he always had a job, but also he hustled, and and drugs were being moved out of that house, and so there was people around that like they were on drugs, and I knew this, and they were getting their money illegally, so it's like it wasn't like frowned upon, but it was also fun because
Yeah.
like it was always excitement, like because there was people around and there was parties going on, so
It's a trip because you're so young and they think it's not that they think, it's like they don't really understand that they're showing you all this,
Yeah,
right? Yeah, you're being
yeah.
exposed to all this, and they don't know it. And I think a lot of it, the reason I asked earlier is like, was he young, is because he's growing up at the same time you are.
Exactly.
Right. So he's
Exactly.
trying to raise you to the best of his ability,
Exactly.
but he's not even mature enough yet to handle such
Yeah,
responsibilities.
you're right. You're right about that. And it's like, you know, because there will always be parties there. So it's like, you know, we'll be. I mean, I doubt we would have got in trouble anyways, but we still try to be sneaky. So we used to crawl like little army men,
Yeah.
and you know, like belly crawl to the ice chest and sneak beers and run to the room and down them, and we portray like what we see. You know, we act drunk and stuff
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that, smoking their cigarette butts that are on the ground, and you know, stuff like that. So you know, to me, like, you know, it was fun. It was exciting. You know, it was something I wanted when I got older. I wanted to be part of that. I wanted to be part of something like that.
Yeah.
You know, and then, you know, what these guys they did have in common was that, you know, they weren't committing like small time crimes. They weren't like going around shooting people, but they were like, you know, like robbing banks and doing things like this, or selling drugs. You know, and
Yeah.
it's like they also kept this moral code, you know, to where it was like, you know, they talked about these things only amongst each other, but it was like, you know, it was just something that I didn't feel like was really a bad thing. You
Hmm.
know, it was just like, you know, like and these like fights that were like legendary fights I would hear about, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
like so, you know, I'm sure
Yeah.
you heard it in your neighborhood, like so and so fought so and so, and it was like a legendary battle where, like, you know, a shoulder was broken and they slammed each other again, you
A
know, and
homie's a kickboxer. A
yeah,
homie does this. Yeah.
yeah, you know, so
Yeah.
so I mean, like I hear about all those things, and I thought like, man, these dudes are awesome, you know. So those were like the guys I looked up to, and one thing I also noticed too was a lot of these guys, and I didn't really notice it till I got older, was they always seemed like, you know, their eyes were kind of like drowsy, and they were like, you know, talking a little bit slow and just like super cool no matter
Yeah.
what was going on. And it was like they had this stone over them that made them like they were like forged in stone or something. And what I knew about and realized what it was later was that most of these dudes were on heroin, you know.
Yeah.
And that was the thing, you know, back then. You know, a lot of you know, gang members or homies, you know, they did heroin and stuff, you know. So
Yeah. So it's kind of crazy because the way you look at it is like they move at their own pace. They're real chill,
exactly, yeah,
but for them, they're really hiding the anxiety,
exactly,
the stress that they have, the pain in their heart. They're hiding all of that, masking it
exactly.
with the
Drug.
yeah, sedating themselves.
With that drug particularly, you know, because I mean, everybody has their loquera, but I feel like in that lifestyle, like it's important. You can't show your emotions, you know. You
Yeah.
can't show how you really feel.
Be a tough guy at all times.
Exactly. You know, you have to be like stone solid through and through, you know, and so it was like those are things that I picked up on, and this was at a real early age. I say when I was probably like between the age of 4 all the way to like 6, 8, you know, and you know, I took a little like psychology courses in college, and you know, and they say that's the most important time for a child's development is up until the age of 6,
Yeah.
you know, because they learn different things such as trust and stuff like that, you know. So it's like
Even
I
change your perception of at least for me, I know it changed my perception of what was a good guy and what was a bad guy.
yeah,
Right. So
exactly.
I thought whenever I'd watch Batman, I always thought Batman was a dick. Right. Because like,
Yeah.
damn, why you fucking with the Joker and all that, right?
Or he's a lop or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it's trippy. Everybody's
yeah,
acting like that, you know what I mean?
yeah. I hear you. You know, I mean, to the best of their ability, because any parent wants the best for their kids. You know, of course they would tell us certain things are wrong. Because you know, I remember one time, like, you know, because I had to go to this school in Wilmington, bro, and it was like you know, my dad was going to Mexico, and you know, like it was under the guise of a vacation, but really he
Yeah,
was going over there to kick drugs,
yeah,
you know, and he had to get away. And so the vacation turned out to be a lot longer than what like I thought was gonna be, and so I wound up staying with my aunt for months, bro.
oh
And
shit,
yeah, and you know, and during that time, you know, when you know you're missing your parents, you don't know what's going on, and you know, so during this time I used to cry a lot, you know, and like I would even sleepwalk, you know, like my aunt said, and so it was like, you know, because I didn't know where my parents were, and I was worried, you know, and so I would get in trouble at school, you know, but anyhow, like when he came home, like I still continued to go to the school, and it was a Catholic school, you know, and so like every time I got in trouble there, they used to like whip my hands with this ruler, this big
yeah,
old ruler, you know. She would put your hands on the desk and whack them, man,
damn,
and yeah, and I used to get mad, you know, but. And my cousins used to be in the doorway and they would be crying because I was always getting in trouble. And I don't think I was a bad kid, but I just like maybe I couldn't conform to what was considered a Catholic school, but and it wasn't so much I was scared of the beating I was getting from these nuns or whatever, but it was more like I knew I was gonna get beat up again when I went home by my dad.
Yeah.
So I was scared. But anyhow, like I remember going there, and like on the way there, you're passing through this neighborhood, which was I think it was the east side of Wilmas. So I would always see these dudes getting busted and stuff like that. And I remember they did like a raid one time when we're out there at the on the schoolyard and during recess or whatever. But you could see it taking place across the street. And
And this was back in you said the harbor
80s,
area.
early 80s, bro, in the harbor area, yeah. And so anyhow, like the teachers told us, like, all those people were over there selling drugs, and the police are there to take them away. And so like I knew this was going on at my house too. So I remember when I came home, I told my dad, like, hey, like these guys got in trouble for selling drugs, like kind of like, maybe like giving them a heads up,
Yeah,
as
yeah.
a little kid, because I didn't want to see nothing happen to my dad. And I just remember them like laughing it off, like, hey, they're like, we don't sell drugs. Like, what are you talking about? And like, like a joke, and they all laughed about it.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that they were hiding it either, but it was like, that was another thing that, like.
How did that make you feel? Like for you trying to be serious about it and then kind of laugh off your
I mean, back then, it made me feel like what I was, a little kid.
yeah. Did you
But,
like that feeling, or were you?
I don't know, to be honest, because I was just looking out for my dad, and I didn't want him and my mom to be fighting so much.
Yeah.
So I felt like, like by saying those things, like maybe it would stop some of the fighting that was taking place in my house, because it was, they were always screaming at each other and leaving each other, so it was like, sometimes I'll come home from school and I can remember it like, I would just come in and they would be right there with the calculator. I mean, not a calculator. Yeah, it was a calculator, because back then we didn't have computers or phones or none of that. And it was like a big old calculator. It looked like a typewriter, all that just for some numbers now, imagine, like imagine that. But
Yeah, they're like this big and shit. Yeah.
yeah, so, but I would see that calculator and I knew that they were calculating money and my mom was going to leave. And like, my heart would break. They wouldn't even have to tell me what was going on. But man, I never really talked about this. Like, I feel it right now too, but I just remember like, I knew I wasn't going to see my mom for a while, bro. And I knew that, my sister was going to be leaving too, and I would worry for her because some of the people that were around, I wasn't sure what was happening with my sister either, because I just noticed, changes were taking place with her, and I didn't know, like, like whether it was abuse going on in that house. And, to this day, there's a lot of question marks I have in my mind because I never fully understood what ever really even happened in that house. I just knew that I had this love and this admiration for my dad, and I knew he loved me too, but at the same time, I had this terrible fear of this man.
Yeah.
I had this terrible fear and this anxiety, and I had nightmares, like reoccurring nightmares, and it was always of my dad, and I didn't know why I was afraid of him, and it was of some of his friends too, and I never really seen him do violent things other than the normal domestic disputes in the house. But I mean, I knew they were doing those things because like they would talk about him sometimes, like like different, like shootings that took place or friends that got shot and like the retaliation and stuff like that. And I know he was never trying to condone that on me because he even talked about some of his friends that, their sons grew up to be from that same neighborhood, which was Northside Redondo, and a lot of the kids I grew up with, their dads groomed them to be from that neighborhood.
Yeah.
And I feel even though I was exposed to this, my dad was not grooming me for that. He wanted something different. So that's why I say I feel I live different childhoods because when I was about 8, we moved out of there, and we moved to Pomona. And I feel he tried to move to like a nicer area without giving it much thought.
Yeah.
And to get away from where he was, because we couldn't really go outside. There was always like the FBI was always watching, and there was always like vans parked outside, and and they would always tell us to come in, and so a lot of stuff took place, and I can't really sit and pinpoint it all because like I said, some of my mind won't, like I just can't remember. I don't know if it's because I was too young. Or some of those times were rough, and I didn't want to think about them, what I mean?
They said that we're reading something the other day talking about trauma.
Yeah.
They're saying a lot of the time when something becomes too traumatizing, one of the things they'll do is block it out.
Yeah, I agree with that too. You know, and I don't want to look at it like, cause I mean, I know you have too, and I've heard some stories on here on your show of dudes that had some very traumatic childhoods, bro. So I don't want to look at myself as having some traumatic childhood because I think there was another part of it that was awesome too, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, come on, we grew up by the beach, bro. So, like, you know, when I was little, so we were always down there at the pier, you know, whether it was to meet my dad's homies or not, we still went there, you know, like,
Yeah.
we went camping, you know, and even though they were all getting together, getting loaded, and there was dudes from these other neighborhoods, and it was like, it was fun, bro. You know, it
Mm-hmm.
was so those memories are good things, you know, and still, no matter what, my dad provided, bro. Even if it was, you know, like the job he kept or, and the crimes he did, like it was all he brought it back to the house, you know,
Yeah.
and he never, like let me see that, you know, like that. I mean, whether it was bad or not, you know, he never let me see him not trying to provide for us, you know.
Yeah.
So when he moved us out there, you know, the intention was to get away from the things that were causing so much pain between him and my mom, you know.
Did,
But
did she go with you?
oh yeah, she went out there. I mean, I can't say it stopped, and I seen my dad change, and I mean, he got a little more weird because we moved out there because he was kind of like isolated, and now he's
Out
like
of his element.
out of his element, bro, and he's trying to fit in, you know. And back then, I felt he was trying to fit in with like these white people, bro, and like, and so I started having this like resentment towards that, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and this anger towards that, you know, because you know, like I was always grounded in my heritage because of my grandma, you know, like she would always, you know, because when she came to this country from Mexico, and but she spoke English, and she raised her kids, which was, I think there's 7 of them all
Oh
together,
shit. Yeah.
and her husband, which was my grandpa, he died when my dad was 7 years old, you know, so she never remarried, you know, and so she did a terrific job in raising all her kids by herself, and she never, like, she always demonstrated that strength to me, you know, and she always told me about our heritage, you know, like where we come from, you know, we're Mexicans, and so I took a lot of pride in that, you know. So like, you know, she also taught, like, because she lived in Redondo Beach, like I said, that was their neighborhood, so she taught at the elementary school, kids that, you know, were English as a second language.
Yeah.
That was her job, was to teach these kids English. And as time went on, there weren't no more Mexicans living in Redondo, but she still held on to this job. And even when they cut that out of the school, which is another thing that kind of made me resent white people, was because, you know, like, it was a mostly predominantly white community. She still kept going there, not even getting paid to teach these kids, which was maybe by then like 2 or 3 of them,
Yeah.
English, you know. And even that book I shared with you, like, that was one of the first books she gave me as a little boy, and
Oh,
she,
dope.
yeah, and she taught me how to read and how to draw, and these were things I would use later on in my life, you know. And you know, like, just to keep from going crazy sometimes, you know, from being, well, you know, being in the cell or being locked up, or just to get out of my head, you know. So like, I was always grateful to her, like she always taught me my heritage. So when we moved out there, I felt like I see my dad like falling away from that, and I didn't respect it, you know. And
Mm.
then he still used drugs, he still did those same things. So like, and I mean, and on the other coin, I gotta say, like, he moved out, and like, you know, like, that's like, if us, you know, like, we're not, like, our kids aren't gonna agree with everything we do,
Yeah.
but if we move to a nicer house, like, I'm gonna congratulate you, and if that's what you want to do, I'm gonna stay away from you if I'm still in that life, you know.
Yeah.
So like, I understand it now that that's what they did, but for as a kid, he took us out of that environment because now we're in a new place, you know, where the area we lived in Pomona wasn't directly in the neighborhood. It was kind of in the outskirts, and it's actually a nice area, you know. But I still already had that in me where I wanted to be around those type of people,
Yeah.
and you know, and whether I didn't find them on my immediate block, that was what I still sought out because I didn't want to be at home, you know. I didn't want to hear the fighting. I didn't want to hear none of that. I just wanted to be outside, you know. And where I grew up, like I said, when I was young, there was a ton of kids. So like, we just rode our bikes, you know. So like, when I would go outside over here in Pomona now, it's like, you know, like, I had to find new friends, and you know, and I remember the first time, like, I got introduced to like the neighborhood over there. Like, I was just right where I was riding a skateboard, you know,
Yeah.
and then I had on this Raider hat, and I remember I was riding, you know, and we wind up pretty far, me and this little group of kids I had, and then like all these dudes rolled up on bikes, you know, you
Yeah.
know the little fixies back then, them chrome fixies, and you know, and like, and they were just like, you know, like mad dogging us because they didn't recognize us, you know,
Yeah.
and like we're new. And then I just remember like one of them drove up on me and was like, "Orale," and took my hat, you know,
Oh shit.
yeah, and just kept it pushing. So I was like, man, you know, like I was like, man, forget these dudes, you know, and so I mean, but you know what I mean? Like I was used to everybody being friendly because like
Yeah.
I knew everybody where I grew up and everybody knew who my dad was. So nobody messed with me, you know? So it's like now, like he can't do nothing about this because, you know, we're in Pomona. This is a whole new ball game, you know? So it's like, you know, like I came home and it's like, where's your hat? You know? And like, I don't know, somebody took it. What do you mean somebody took it? And, you know, he can't go out there looking before. I remember like there was times people stole things from us in Torrance and it was like they'll find out who did it and basically like they would let them off easy because they would return the items we brought and some
Yeah.
and come out and be apologizing because they didn't want no problems with these people, you know. And so it's like they apologize, but over here it's like I got jacked, you know,
Yeah.
his son got jacked, you know, and it didn't stop there because they broke in and stole that skateboard too, you know what I mean?
Damn.
Yeah, so like here I was without my skateboard, you know, my hat got jacked, and now I knew that, you know, we're somewhere where you got to be on your toes, you know,
Yeah.
like if you're gonna go outside, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're gonna go around and run outside with the kids, you know what I mean? So it's like that was a difference, you know, a change for me, you know what I mean? But
How did you start becoming like a like how did you start integrating into the Pomona area like with the younger crowd,
with like the gang
like the
culture,
kids
the
out there?
kids,
Yeah. Like
well, okay, so like I said, in the area we lived at, it was a fairly nicer area. So he tried to separate me from going to like the bad schools, really.
mhm.
So I still got in so much trouble at these schools, and we used to get in trouble in class. And I remember they would send us for recess instead of being able to play with the other kids, we'd have to stand on this line and it was a freshly painted white line. And I remember there was these little berries on this tree next to it. So we smashed these berries on this nice line, and then they would like give us more time on the line.
Yeah.
And so it's like I ended up making a friendship with a lot of these kids because we were always standing on the line, you know. So,
Yeah.
so it's like even though we didn't know each other, like that's how a lot of us we became friends by standing on this little line, you know, and causing trouble. So it's like, you know, we were like the troublemakers of that school, you know. And so I mean, I started making my friends like that, you know, like
Damn.
other kids I felt that were like didn't want to be home, that were you know, like maybe we weren't like angry, violent kids, because I like there was a lot of those too, and I didn't feel like I was one of those like violent kids, but you know, I was still mad, I was still a rebel, I still
Yeah.
wanted, you know, I still in some form I wanted to be a bully, you know, like I used to want to, you know, like hit these kids, you know, these white, and I did sometimes, and I got in trouble for that, you know, and I didn't really go through the juvenile system, like, you know, like how you did and a lot of other dudes, but, you know, I got in trouble for things I was doing at school, you know, like I stabbed one kid with a pencil.
Oh shit.
And, you know, I like they had to give us counseling, and again, like I didn't want to say what was going on in the house. Like I remember I used to get like grass in the fields and like bag it up like it was drugs,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, like in the third grade, and I would take it to school like I was selling drugs, and then the principal would find out. And another thing, I remember I brought pornography to school, and like so now that I look back, you know, the teachers were trying to help me because I remember being in that principal's office so many times, and she gave me like this analogy I'll never forget, you know, like because the way I viewed women, like, you know, my dad was a womanizer, and he was more like assertive when it came to dealing with my mom, so she just stood quiet. So I looked at women kind of like you know, they didn't have much of a say so, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. You didn't
Yeah,
put much value on them.
no, not like that, you know. So I mean, I remember she caught me with that pornography at school, and I don't even know why I bring it or why I brought it, you know, but she told me it was like taking a rose and dipping it in mud, you know. And like it kind of changed the way I thought about girls at that point, because I didn't feel like that anyways. I wasn't like a dirty nasty kid either, but I just thought like, why was I doing, why do, you know. And I started to like look at that different, you know, like the little girls at school, like I respected it more, you know, and I think I was doing that because I wanted to give it to the other kids or something, you know.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be bad.
Just gain acceptance too.
Yeah, like that, you know,
Yeah.
and the same thing with the little drugs, you know, because she's like, where did you learn that? You know, like, well, where did you see that? You know, and then like sometimes like they would show those big old like things in the auditorium where they would teach us about drugs and
Like
not,
just say no campaigns and shit.
yeah, you
Yeah.
know, because this was the '80s, bro, you
Yeah.
know, and so like, I mean, those things like they also taught us stuff. You know, like we like if you're a bad kid and you're sitting there watching that, you're kind of picking up game too, because now you're like, oh, like I want to try that someday, you know, or you
Like
know,
what? Mushrooms do what?
yeah,
Yeah.
like that sounds kind of cool instead of like thinking like, oh, that's man, I'm never gonna do that. Maybe
Yeah.
some kids thought like that, but I was like, I'm gonna try that one of these days, you know. And so like we would sit there and listen to those things, and you know, and I mean, yeah, stuff like that. So that's kind of like how I forged my first friendships at that school, and you know, we
Well,
got in trouble from there, you know.
a question that I have is when you were doing that counseling, because
Yeah,
you know, I that's real similar to how I was when I was a kid, right? Like
yeah.
my wife tripped out too. I thought everybody did that shit, and she was like,
No,
"Nah, man."
no, they don't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I was like, "Oh shit."
yeah.
So when you were doing the counseling, did you like know that you had to kind of cover shit up,
Um,
or were you pretty open with them?
yeah, I was like, I was embarrassed, and at the same time, I didn't want to expose.
Yeah.
I didn't want to say too much. I didn't want to get anybody in trouble. I didn't want them to hurt my dad or hurt my mom, you know, or my sister. You know, like the way I viewed all that. Like I said, everything we did stood in the house.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I didn't even talk about a lot of these things that were taking place to my own cousins, you know, and I was pretty close with them, you know. I just, like, I mean, yeah, you know, like they came over and, you know, they knew it was different. And I feel like, you know, maybe that's why, like, even my grandma took a lot of empathy towards me because, you know, they were growing up in different lives. You know, like I had another cousin and, you know, he was a toy tester for Mattel because
Oh
my ass
shit.
worked for Mattel. And I
Yeah.
didn't even know those existed, bro. But, like, you know, so, like, he would
What, all
get,
like newest shit?
yeah, he would get all these new toys and like all this cool stuff, man. And like, you know, and I wasn't really into toys as a kid. Like I said, I had my bike. If I wanted to play with something, I'll pick up a hammer and some nails and smash things, you know. But like I would see these super cool robotic toys that he had, like Transformers. And I remember one time, like I went into his room and I put it under my shirt and ran out to throw it in the car, and my dad caught me, you know. And he's like, you know, what are you doing, Mio? You know? And I was like, you know, I want this toy. And he's like, you don't have to take it, you know. And he's like, but he's like, he does have a lot of toys though, you know. And I was like, yeah, he does, you know. And so he didn't say to put it back either, you know. But he just kind of like looked at it like, I don't know. That was weird because when I think about that, he didn't get mad, but I could tell he looked disappointed, you know. So maybe he was hurt, you know.
You know, yeah, it's probably a trip, dog, because he's like, damn, I don't want my son stealing stuff, but at the same time, he's like, I can't get this for him either.
Yeah.
So it's a crazy thing because I think about that now too. Like just life as a parent,
Yeah.
it's a little different because, yeah, looking at it from the outside, you could be like, oh, whatever, he should have. But like, being a parent, that kind of changes your perspective on shit. Like,
It
damn.
does. You want your kids to have these things, but it hurts you if they do
Yeah.
steal, you know?
But also maybe because you can't provide it too.
Yeah, you know.
So that's another thing too. Yeah, I don't know. It's a trip, man.
Yeah, because I've seen my son do stuff like that, and it hurt me that, you know, he had to go and do, you know, wrong to like have a better life when I should have been, you know, like thoughtful and gave him those things, but
Yeah.
I didn't. I was so caught up, you know, and I look back at it and I see that's probably where my dad was at, you know, like you know, he probably, like, if I were to bring a lot of this stuff up to him, he might not even remember because he was just trying to provide and change, and I know what it's like now, you know, because
Yeah.
I mean, now I go through the same things. I'm trying to live a different life, but at the same time I'm struggling with, you know, like how I was, like what's ingrained in my brain already, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
You know, so it's like, yeah, but yeah, you're right, you know. But,
How did you start getting involved in gang banging?
okay, the with the gang banging, I mean, this was probably like in the early '80s. Like I said, I was already exposed to the lifestyle, so you know, to me that was like I wanted to be from a gang, and so you know, on the other side of the family, there was this neighborhood called La Rana. I don't know if you ever heard of
Yeah.
it in Torrance. So back then, it was like a big deal to be from there, you know, because they had all these guys that were like, you know, like famous in the prison system, dudes, you know. And so like we had family from there. So before I moved to Pomona, and while I moved there, we still stood in touch with this family. So we did everything together. We went camping and all that, and then so like that, like I remember one year during the summer they were like, you know, come and stay with us, Richie, you know. And so I went over there, and like that summer we ran amok, you know, because my older cousin, he was already from that neighborhood, and like his dad, you know, this was his stepdad that's raising him, but his real dad was official from that neighborhood. His stepdad was from there, even his mom, and the brothers were supposed to be from there, his little brothers, and so, but what I didn't really notice was, you know, he was kind of grooming me to be from there, even though we had moved to Pomona.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he wanted me to go stay over there, and there was like kind of like a reason behind it, you know. So like I remember we went out that summer on bikes, and like basically like, you know, we terrorized that whole area. You know, we took off, and you know, we crossed it was called the Stephen White Bridge. We crossed the freeway, and we're going through East Side Torrance and all these neighborhoods, and we were just doing dirt. And I was little, man. I probably had to been like 10, 11 years old, but you know, like I found it fun, you know.
Yeah.
And I thought it was cool, you know, like I wanted to do that, you
Because
know.
you had that natural rebellious spirit, and then you're just
Yeah.
now you're upping the ante and shit.
Yeah, exactly. Like we're taking it to a different level, you know. And so it was like, you know, they gave me a pair of Levi's, I hear you say the uniform,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, like the corduroys
Yes,
back
sir,
then, you
yeah.
know what I mean, with the little cuff, and they were teaching me how to dress, you know, and you know, like he's a little older, so he was into girls, but back then my mind wasn't like that, you know, like I just wanted to be accepted. I wanted to be cool and tough, you know.
Yeah.
So I remember we got into a few fights, and I proved myself, you know. And then like his little brother, like he was kind of grooming him to be from the neighborhood. And so like his little brother, we got into it in the house one day, and I remember I just like put hands all over him and feet too, you know. And then so it was like my cousin seen that, and like, you know, he got happy, you know. And so I feel like he kind of embraced me at that point a little more than he even did his little brother. And so like, you know, so that time of the summer's coming to an end, and it's like, you know, so now I gotta go home. And he's like, look, Rich, like I really want you to be from the neighborhood, you know. And he's like, you know, it's like a privilege, and it was, because even then they had a cousin, and like his whole life he wanted to be from that gang, you know. And it's a trip now, because kids don't, like I was telling you earlier, kids don't really want to be from gangs these days. Like I said, I feel like we burnt the spot, you know.
Yeah.
But so like this cousin of his wanted to be from this gang, but he was of mixed race, you know, and he was like he was fathered from somebody that wasn't the like part of the family.
Yeah.
And so he was a mixed race, and so he wasn't accepted, and this guy actually committed suicide.
Oh, it's fucked up, man.
Yeah, at the age of 15, because he couldn't be from the neighborhood. They told him no because of his bloodline.
Damn. You know, it's sad because you don't want your kids to be from gangs anyways, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, that was the family, that kind of like the family business, if you will,
Yeah,
right?
it was.
And it's like, that's kind of like, nah, not you.
Yeah.
That's a fucked up thing, like that rejection right there. It's like everybody could come in, but not you, because you're just a little different. And that's a fucked up thing, like
Imagine
that.
how that guy felt.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I could, like it's fucked up, man. Like
It's cold, man.
yeah. So and then for him to not be able to deal with it so much, have no one to turn to, that he had to take his own life.
Took his own life, you know, and that young too, man. And he was a real athletic guy, you know, and I mean, from what I seen, like I was like, why, you know, like what's so different, like, you know. But you know, I didn't understand all the politics of it, but back then, you know, there was like a racial thing going on in that neighborhood, and I guess it wasn't a good look for them, you know, because at that time they were like at the height of their popularity as well, that neighborhood. So it's like, you know, when he asked me this, and it was like a, you know, from what I understood, a privilege, you know, and I seen that, you know, it was worth dying over, like, you know, even if it's at your own hands. And so, you know, it wasn't my dad's neighborhood, but they had the same ties, and all these dudes I heard about growing up were like, in my eyes, legendary, you know.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you know, like, dang, I could be part of that. And he's like, but you got to live over here, you know, like you could move with us. And I was like, man, I don't want to leave my mom, you know, you know, I miss her cooking and, you know, the little things that she buys me, because, you know.
Because at the end of the day, you're still a kid.
Yeah, I'm a kid, bro.
Yeah.
You know, my dad buys me what I need, and What am I gonna do? Ask him for his Levi's?
It's a trip, man. Cause as a kid, you think you're a grown man until it's time to become like,
Yeah,
just leave your pad. Like, what the fuck?
yeah,
I want to go home.
yeah. Like I want to go home. So that didn't happen. I went home.
Yeah,
So anyhow, I like now, like my nose is open basically. Like I want to be from a gang. So it's like I'm going back to school now. Like I'm probably like getting ready to go into junior high during this time, and I'm like making up stuff to like start our own gang. Like because you're not. I'm not official. I'm not around people yet.
yeah,
So it's like we're trying to make up our own little stuff, and then like people come and shut that down or whatever, and then so anyhow like I started tagging. Because that was like the next best thing back then.
yeah,
This was the '90s. Everybody was a gangbanger, and like tagging was like a hobby.
yeah.
So like it wasn't. We weren't in the house playing video games. We weren't stuck on whatever they use nowadays. Like we went outside and we wrote on walls, and that was our fun. Like I'm sure with you and all your homies and stuff. So I got into the tagging. I was a tagger. So like I used to go like we just be out all different times of the night, but that's where you're exposed to all that stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's 2 in the morning, you're out there writing on walls, and there's other people that are out there hunting. And so like the area I said like which was close to where we grew up, or where we lived, the closer area was 12th Street. So
Mhm.
it was like I started making friends that were they weren't even from the neighborhood themselves at that time, but their brothers were, and so
They
like
looked up to it.
they looked up to it,
Yeah.
and that was a predominant neighborhood in that area. Like I mean, it was like that was the ultimate to be from that neighborhood, and it was like it was back then. It was such a cool thing, I mean, and like and honestly, I feel like I was kind of a late bloomer because it wasn't really until like high school that I really got in,
Yeah.
but it was like all during this time, and you gotta understand too because it was different. Like back then, you couldn't even be around a neighborhood.
Yeah.
You couldn't even hang around them unless you were like basically like a killer or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you had to be solid to even just be in the car. Like I remember I
It's
was
always like, oh, who's this vato?
exactly.
Yeah.
Like our people watcher, they ain't gonna say nothing in front of you. You're gonna feel like a lame basically,
Yeah.
unless you're really accepted. So it took years to even gain that acceptance. Like I remember one time, like the first time I went and like I was really kicking it, and we're in this house, and it's probably like in junior high, and there's some like white boy outside that like I had jacked or something, and I told the homie like, hey, like get this guy out of here. He's like, what do you mean get him out of here? Like you get him out of here, you brought him over here, and so you could jack him and go out there and deal with him.
Yeah.
And so like that, so I was like, all right, so like. So now they're all on the window,
See
like
what you're gonna
see what
do.
I'm gonna do, and so I went out there and put hands on this guy and told him to leave, and so like when I came back, they played it off like they weren't watching, but I knew they were because that's part of building your resume. They want to see what type of heart
Yeah.
you
How you
have.
gonna handle things? And
Exactly, so it was like I remember like the homie was saying like, dog, you don't feel nervous? I'm like, what, nervous about what? He's like, because you're in the room with a bunch of killers. And I was thinking like, I just, like fighting it. Like, that's the furthest my mind was going. It wasn't like on this like hyper violence yet,
Yeah.
And so it was like, now I knew that that's what you got to do to be from this neighborhood. And like I said, it was like being groomed up until that point was part of exposing yourself to that type of violence. And it's like, in order to do that, like you have to do things or at least be involved in things that was that violence.
Yeah.
Like I remember, a homie would tell us like, okay, look, man, like it'd be like Halloween, we're like a bunch of little ghetto crusty kids or whatever, and he would like give us a gun, and I remember it was like this big old AK, and it looked like a toy,
Mhm.
because I had never fired one of those. And so, but it was real, you know what I mean? But so anyhow, he's like, like you guys are gonna go over here and like with no car, no bike, no nothing. He's like you guys are gonna go walking, and he's like basically like I don't want to hear none of you guys calling or coming back until I at least see some helicopters, or some type of noise, right? That way I know you guys did something, and then from there, like make it to a phone or a pay phone and call us, and we'll tell you what to do after that,
Yeah.
So, like, here we are looking at like, how do you hide an AK when you're walking down?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I remember, like, we tried to make it look, because it was Halloween, we tried to make it look like part of the Halloween costume. So, like, one of them always puts, like, the pillowcase for the candies on top of his head, and is walking like maybe to look like a ghost or something, and we still got this AK. And I'm like, man, it looks stupid now, like,
Yeah.
and I was like, I don't know what we're gonna. So, like, I remember we just dragged it. I remember we just started dragging it, so it looked like a toy. But I'll never forget, like, the noise that it made, because it was just like,
Yeah.
and we're walking over
Actually
here.
dangerous as fuck too, cause
Hell yeah,
you hit a bump or anything, and that's damn.
We didn't know, like,
Yeah.
I barely even know how to work the thing, and this one between, like, three of us. And so, like, when we got over to where, like, there was people out there, like, we had to do our thing, and, and we had to figure out how to get back. And so, like, there was another thing, like, that's going to bring you closer to the hood, so it's like all these things, were like part of being from the neighborhood, or trying to gain that acceptance,
Yeah.
And it was like, so that was like, like my introduction into, into Pomona, to 12th Street, and so it was like, like I knew that, you had to be reputable, and, you had to wear your clothes a certain way. And like I said, like, like there was dudes that hung around, and, they just started, considered from the neighborhood after you've been around and involved so much, and it's like, before and like I said, there's a difference between gangsters and gangbangers. So it was like, my dad, like, he hated that I was hanging around these guys, because, like, you were telling me earlier, like, your dad would get down on you because of fighting with the guys, but my dad looked at it like we were just a bunch of drug addicts and junkies, and he was right, but it was like, it was a different generation,
Yeah.
so it was a different group of guys, because all these guys that I was hanging out with, like my little crew, all of us, we did hard drugs, like we didn't just smoke weed and drink and like, like party. Like, it was like, no, we wanted to outdo each other on who could do the most psychoist, craziest stuff,
Yeah.
and it's like, the only way to do that sometimes was you had to be, like, looped out of your mind on drugs, like, I was even telling my wife a story, on the way here about, like, just like smoking PCP, and, like, being out of my mind, thinking people were breaking into the house, and, just like all this craziness. But, like, that became an everyday thing, and it was like, I remember one time, I mean, because I started using drugs at a really young age, like probably when I was 8 years old, I started smoking weed. And by the time I was 15, I was already involved with the neighborhood, and I was already using heroin, bro. You know what I
Damn.
mean? Like, I started at
Because all that
14.
was normalized to you.
All that was normalized to me, and so, I did basically all the things I wanted to do, but the one thing I had not counted on was what drugs would do to you. Like, I didn't, I seen it in a glamorous aspect, but I didn't see it in the aspect that it took me or others that I knew, because this is something that, like, heroin's a different story, bro. You don't get there is no breaks from that. Like, it's a all day, everyday thing.
And you know what's a trip is I think it happens a lot with when you're younger, especially like when you see older people doing drugs, it looks fun. Looks
Yeah.
like, man, they're having a good fucking time. This is dope. But you don't see when that motherfucker stops coming around because he's a fucking addict. He might jack the pad, and they probably whooped his ass a few times.
Exactly.
Yeah. So like you don't get to see all that.
Or
All
he's
you
sick,
see,
or he's
yeah,
sick,
all you see is like these fools are just partying and shit.
Yeah.
Same thing with like celebrities when they're all doing coke at
Exactly.
fucking in parties and shit. Like, oh, that's just dope. But then you don't see when nobody's fucking answering their calls anymore, and they're
Yeah.
in a hotel room broke as fuck.
Yeah, and everybody's, all the backstabbing that takes place with that, and
Yeah, because everybody else is on drugs too, and they're all trying to get high, and
Exactly.
they burned a lot of bridges. So that was like,
the scandalous things
Yeah.
people do, So, like I said, because I started that at an early age, I didn't, like, I wasn't told. I mean, like, there was some good homies back then too, Like, there was some homies that, like, they even though they were from the neighborhood and would lace us up, they were like, it was almost like they were trying to keep us from being from the neighborhood. But at the same time, they're lacing you up, to be a stand-up dude, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it was like I had some of those guys around me that were from that neighborhood, and like they find out who my uncles were, you know, and where my family was from. And so like again, I found that few that based on that they took me in and explained things to me pretty good, you know. But one thing they didn't explain was what was going to happen with the drug addiction, because a lot of them were strung out themselves. And back then in that little area, like everybody from the neighborhood used, bro. They all did heroin. And so it's like a lot of these guys like started going to YA, you know, like I got busted for small things, so I didn't really do the juvenile thing. And um and again, like when we did stuff like that, like we were laced, bro, like, you know, like, and it wasn't technology like how it is now. Like
Yeah.
there's dudes now that go out on their first mission and get caught, bro, because of cameras, and nobody told them how to do things, you know. And it's sad, you know. It's because like nobody laced them. And it's like, so back then, like I had dudes that were lacing me up, you know, because they wanted to see you make it. And if you were gonna decide like, okay, you want to be from the neighborhood, well, they want to see you make it in that too, you know. And one of my homeboys used to tell me, and like, you know, like yeah, you're a gangster, you know, whatever, but we're still gentlemen, bro. Like, you know,
Mm.
you still conduct yourself like, cause there was a group of dudes that were all going to YA and getting busted and doing all this stuff, but they were like, you know, tatting their face, and that wasn't something that was normal back then, you know.
Yeah.
Like nobody did that, you know, or putting tats on their head, you know. Like we would get it on our stomach and everything, but so like these dudes were like burning themselves, you know. Like they were taking it to an extreme, and these were the gangbangers, you know. And like I said, you know, even though we're all from the gang, not all of us were gangbangers, and I respected those dudes, you know, because they were wild and with it, you know. But
Yeah.
but like, you know, these guys would tell me the same, you know, to still conduct yourself and don't get all that stuff all over you, bro. Like don't bring attention to yourself. Don't bring attention to this neighborhood even.
Yeah.
Don't be out there writing on walls, you
Don't
know.
burn the spot.
Don't burn the spot, man. You know, get away with the things you do. And I was taught that too from an early age, you know, because like my pops, like even though they did these things, you know, like, you know, before he would go and do these robberies and stuff, like they used to have like a ritual where they would go eat breakfast together, sober, you know, like they didn't get high and be in that desperate state, you know. It was like, so that's why I said I lost respect from my dad, because he's seen that like everything we did involved drugs, everything, you know.
Mm.
And that's the sad part, because like, you know, like all my friends, all my crew, like I love them to death, because these dudes are like, you know, like we had heart, bro, like, you know. And it's like I mean, I seen them do things that like, I mean, like stuff people don't do no more, you know. Like
Yeah.
like one of my best friends, you know, my homeboy Slim, like basically, you know, he's on a case for something he didn't even do, bro. And it's like, you know, like I don't want to say gladly, but back then, you know, like we took those things on the chin, bro, and chalked it up as that's
Yeah.
part of the game,
One
you
thing
know.
I don't hear a lot of anymore. I'm kind of glad too, because it was kind of a weird fucking concept back then. But I hear homies say like, "Man, I'll do 10 years on my standing on my head." Like, man, you
Yeah,
fools are tripping for real.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
back then, I was the same way though. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
nowadays, I'm like, nah, 10 years. Like,
yeah. I
fuck.
can't do
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
I don't know. I'll be fucking 50 by the time I get out. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know about that one.
yeah, you know. And so yeah, I mean, but we knew we were going to prison,
Yeah.
but at the same time, you know, like, you know, like I remember my boy when that happened to him. He's like, man, they like, he was trying to keep a good attitude, you know. He's like, they hit me with years like if I'm a dinosaur or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's like, you know, I feel like Austin Powers when he lost his mojo, you know.
Yeah.
And he got one good laugh out of me, and then he broke down on the phone and started crying, bro, you know. And it's like, you know, like this guy, he never had no kids, you know. His dad died, was from the neighborhood and got killed. And you know, like his mom had passed away, you know. And so it was like, here was a man that his whole legacy was gonna end,
Yeah.
you know. And it was all for another dude, you know. And that was the way we did things back then, you know. Like, you know, like I said, we try to outdo each other, and being honorable was another way that we would try to outdo each other by doing honorable things, you know.
Yeah.
Like if your homie got shot during the shootout, like, you know, you ran into the line of fire and picked him up, even if he was dead, you know. Like, you know, you didn't just run off, you know. If two of you get busted, and the homie doesn't stand up for what he did, and you took that, bro, and you ran with it, you know. And it's like a lot of, like, I mean, like right before like what's taking place out there in the streets now, I feel like so many people got the game twisted up because they didn't have that period of time to be groomed by a neighborhood before they joined it. So it's like they didn't get that schooling. They didn't get exposed to that violence, you know. Because I remember being around some people and like being in the car with them, going to do things and looking over at them, and they're like turning white like a ghost and turning blue, and it's like, look, dude, I'm gonna just take you home, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you know, like I wouldn't tell them.
It's gonna be a lot of
Like,
talking after
yeah,
this. Huh?
this
Like,
dude,
fuck that.
you might as
Yeah.
well drive to the county jail right now, you know.
Yeah.
So it was like, you know what I mean? Like they like people didn't look before they leaped. You
Yeah.
know, like you know, like we did back then. We tried to look, you know, and if it happened to us, you know, like you didn't hear of too many dudes like snitching and rolling over, telling, or you know, like it was SNY wasn't like that. Like what was that? Like you know, like yeah, there was PCs, but like that was few and far in between. Like you know, in my neighborhood, you know, and it was like, you know, we didn't get along with nobody there, so it was nothing to like have the whole world against you. You
Yeah.
know, it was nothing to like, you know, go to jail because you know when you got there, like you've seen everybody that you knew anyways. You know,
Yeah.
so it was like, you know, it was a different mentality, bro. You know what I mean? So it's like a lot of these friends and like you know, I kind of got off on what we were talking about, but you know, you kind of just took me back a little. But so, like my exposure to the gang and my up and coming, like I said, it was all really sudden, bro.
Yeah.
Like you know, cause it's like my whole life I wanted to be that way, and like when it started happening, it was already happening. Like you know, we had already done things before, you know, like it was we already backed up that neighborhood. We already were around that. We already did things for that neighborhood. It was like years had gone by, you know, and like I was already even starting to have children, you know, like at the age of 16, like you know, like I had my first kid, and like I was not nowhere near ready to be a parent because I was still trying to, like I said, like and it was the 90s. Everybody, it was like cool to be a gangster,
Yeah.
you know, and even my baby's mom at the time, all her family was from the neighborhood. So it was like, you know, my congratulation for having a child was like a little party and someone slide me some heroin, you know what I mean? And it was like, I mean, come on, that's not
Yeah. For a 16-year-old
that
year old dad.
that's not cool, you know.
Yeah.
Now that I look back, and it was like that was just the life. That was how we lived, you know. That's how I was gonna live, you know. And by this time, I feel like my dad and my parents, like they had really changed because they had gone through a lot of changes during that time, and they had almost split up several times, you know. And it's like, you know, they had decided that they were gonna stay together because like let me back up a little bit. Like during the time when like I had really got into it, like you know, there was like a summer, I think I was like 14, and my parents were split up, and you know, and I was already hanging around with the neighborhood doing my thing, and that was the year that I had tried heroin, you know. And so it was like we seen it on these specials, you know, and like you know, all this TV stuff too. And it's like, and like I said, I knew it was like a thing that like a neighborhood thing, like that's what dudes did in the neighborhood, like old prison gangsters and all that stuff, you know. And so it's like I had heard of this crew of dudes that they got loaded and they partied off that stuff, you know. So it's like my little crew now, like you know, it was a summer. Back then, you could ride in the back of trucks. You know
Oh
what
yeah,
I mean?
yeah, yeah. I
You
remember
know what
that
I'm
shit.
saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're all getting together to go to the beach. You know, we meet up in the neighborhood. We're like partying, and you know, we're gonna go hook up with some girls or whatever. And you know, so it was like, you know, like let's get loaded. You know. And so like by that, I'm selling drugs already. You know, like I used to get weed, and you know, and I would get a gram of heroin. I would get an ounce of weed, and I would pour lactose. You could buy lactose. They had head shops back then, so I'll buy a little container. I was too young, so I'll have somebody go buy a little container of lactose, and I'll put it on top of the heroin and crush it up with a spoon, and sprinkle it on the weed, and I will sell these joints. And like back then, it was like, I don't even know if Cypress Hill was around or something, but there was a song or something that was talking about like Chiba Chiba or like Thai or like, you know, from Cheech and Chong movies, like you know,
Yeah.
like the Thai stick. So
Yeah.
we would tell them it was like all this like fancy weed, but it was just some heroin on some backyard Bobby Brown weed. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. That's fucked up, though, okay.
Yeah. So they're all smoking heroin, you know, and so like that day, I was like, let's go get some stuff before we go, and that way we could, you know, we could party with these girls and some of the homies. And so I went, and they didn't have no weed, You know, he's like, all I got is this heroin. I'm like, well, what am I gonna do with that?
Yeah.
But then I remember that crew of dudes that had did that, and like, you know, and then like they had stepped up their game, like they're in the big boys game now. You know, like they're using this type of drug. So I was like, oh well, let's just see what it does. You know, and then so I remember that day, you know, we smoked it where we got high and we went to the beach and like man, we had a good time, bro. Like we had so much fun, you know. Like one dude, I remember he got sick, and he was like throwing up off of it. And me and my other homie, like we were having fun, like we're having so much fun and talking. Like I don't know, something about that drug makes you like kind of emotional too a little bit. Cause we're sitting in the front bumping oldies, and we threw my homie that fell sick and those girls in the back of the truck, and it's like if they weren't even part of us no more.
Yeah.
Like now it's like me and him, and we're talking, we're vibing, you know,
Lost in the conversation and
lost
shit.
in the conversation, you know, and it's like, you know, this dude's in the back throwing up and we're just laughing at him, you know, and so like so now we feel like we're bigger than what we are too, you know. So it was like during that summer, bro, like my parents were split up, and like, you know, maybe that was part of it too, because you know I used to get like hurt that, you know, like my mom wouldn't show up to come and get me, you know, and my dad, you know, would be like, you know, partying at the house and all loaded or whatever, and it was just like so lonely and so miserable that I just didn't even want to be home, you know. But
Yeah, at the
so
house you had nobody there for you, so you hit the
nobody, bro,
streets. I always say
exactly.
too, and it's kind of weird. It's true. It's whatever you're missing at home, you'll find on the streets. It's a
Yeah,
fucked up thing though, because you're not gonna find the ideal version of it, but you're gonna
yeah,
find what you're looking
yeah,
for.
you are, bro, you know, and like everything's like, you know, perverted and twisted, you know, like our morals, and you know, and it's like, you know, my wife tells me that sometimes. She's like, you know, what kind of friend would give you drugs, you know, or what kind of friend would you know, like like take you to your death, you know. And it's like, it's not that, like, you know, like we were going together, you know,
Hmm.
and that's how we looked out for each other, and in our warped sense state of mind, that's how we showed each other love, was by doing those things, you know.
Yeah,
And
like you see a homie coming down, instead of be like, man, fool, you need help. You're gonna be like, this fool's hurting.
yeah,
Let me give him
let me
something.
get them
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
let me take care of them,
Or you
you
don't
know.
want to. You mean the homies roaming the streets, and you don't want them to be a fucking hardcore killer and do life and shit. But you're like, dog, don't get caught slipping in the streets. Here's a strap.
Yeah, exactly, bro. Like that, you know, or give them some money or something, you know. But yeah, it was like that, bro. So, you know, I mean, I feel like I got everything I needed from the people I hung out with, you know, and so like I said, it was trying to outdo each other. So like we started using this drug, and then not everybody was serious about it, you know. But I had knew that like this is what, like how I wanted to feel, you
Mm-hmm.
know. This I didn't feel nothing no more after that. Like, you know, I didn't feel scared when, you know, something came up and we had to go take care of business. I didn't feel hurt, you know, because of what my family was going through. I didn't think about some of the big question marks I had in my mind as far as like what type of abuse, you know, may have took place. I didn't feel that. I felt
You,
like
you were like those OGs talked about earlier. Cool,
exactly.
cool about
I
everything,
was
and
cool, bro. Like, you know, I was good, you know, like.
yeah.
And so I mean, I remember like I wanted to be like a big boy already, because even though I had just started using that drug, and I can't imagine how I look, because I look at kids now, 14, you're a little
Yeah, yeah,
boy.
yeah. I seen a picture of me the other day when I was a little kid. I was like, man, like send that little bastard home. You know, look what the fuck.
Yeah, like give
Yeah,
that kid a hug or
yeah.
something,
Like,
you
what
know
the
what I
hell's he
mean?
doing out there?
Yeah, you know. And so like when I look back at that, like, I mean, that's what I see. Like I would have gave that little dude a hug or something, man, and I would have took him with me for a day and like showed him like, hey, man, you know, what are you doing with your life, bro? Like you could be, I mean, you could be the president, you
Yeah,
know, like
anything you
who
want.
knows,
Yeah.
man? You know, like you're not all tattered, you're not burnt out, you know, like you still got your brain, you know. So it's like, you know, so anyhow, you know, I wanted to be like a little more. So I remember I had robbed this dope connection, you know, and I came up on, cause you know, like that was another thing that, you know, like the homies we used to do, like, you know, we used to hit all these connections, you know, and you know, instead of selling dope, like, you know, we go and hit them, and like, you know, like they were the ones running the streets. So like we could go to the homie and be like, hey, like, you know, like I just hit this connection and wouldn't get in trouble for it, because you know, like, you know, due to taxing or whatever was taking place in the streets, like being affiliated and part of that gang, that was another one of the pluses, was like, you know, like the homies were the dudes you called
Yeah.
when you got robbed. So it's like, and they're all doing heroin too. So like if they see like me as a youngster, like this group of dudes ain't gonna scold me for being on heroin like most homies will, because that's not like something cool. Like you're supposed to be a gangbanger because you're a youngster. Like
Yeah.
you shouldn't be shooting dope, conducting yourself like we are, because we're older. We have been around. I hadn't been to prison or none of that. And it was like that was how I wanted to carry myself. So I went in and got with them and got the 411. They're like, as long as you come back and give us something, like, don't trip, bro. There's not going to be no consequences. So I went in and I robbed this connection, and I got a bunch of, like, a lot of drugs, bro, a lot of heroin. And, I kind of just took it to the house and, like locked it up that summer, bro, and didn't come outside. And like, I just still getting loaded with, like, I had so much dope for being like a
Yeah.
kid and just starting out. So, like, my transition from being a heroin addict was like instant, bro.
That's pretty scary too if you think about it, because you don't know how much to take or how much your body can take.
I didn't care, bro.
Yeah, that's fucking crazy,
I
man.
didn't care. I just knew that, like, I actually learned how to do it by watching it on TV.
Damn, that's fucking wild.
And I didn't even know what I was doing, bro. But I was sticking needles into myself, man, and it was like, and I'm a 14-year-old kid, and so, like, and I have a lot of it, and like, I'm not even telling everybody what I got and what I did, because I don't want them around me,
Mm.
and I'm doing it not even so much because I'm like addicted like that, because I barely started, but again, I wanted to be cool. I wanted to fit in. I wanted to be like the dudes I told you what I looked up to, like a prison gang member.
Yeah,
I wanted to be like looked at like that, so
the big dog on the block.
big dog, bro. So when I'm doing this, like, I don't know what I'm doing to my body, but I'm becoming very addicted, bro. And I remember, like, school was starting, and I was down there with some of the homies, and I remember that day, like, I just, like, there was always people outside, but I just noticed, like, there was more people outside, and like, the kids were dressed a little nicer. And the homie's like, shouldn't you be going to school? Like school started today. And I was like, oh, man, like, and like I said, my mom and my dad were separated, so nobody was.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I remember I had to
Got
go.
all about that shit.
Yeah, I
Like,
had to go start school, bro, and so, like, yeah, bro. So, like, what I mean, I was already a full blown addict, bro, at that age. You know what I mean? And it was like, I like, it was crazy, bro. Like,
yeah, it's a trick, because when you're that young, you live a fast life and you think you're older than you are.
yeah,
One of my boys told me a story one time that he got taken away from his parents, and he was like 16 years old and shit.
yeah,
So they take him to the police station and shit, and he's like, well, let me know when this is over. I'm gonna bounce. And they're like, no, you're not. You're staying here.
yeah.
And
Your parents got to
yeah,
get you. Yeah,
he realized, like, oh shit, like, because they took him away from his parents, and so he has to go to a foster. He's like, what the fuck, like what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And he realized, he's like, oh shit, I'm still a little kid,
yeah,
because
he's used to raising himself.
yeah,
now,
yeah. So he thought he was just gonna be able to just walk on out of there, like,
Yeah.
fuck it, I'll let you guys sort this out.
That's crazy, huh? Yeah, So, I mean, it was like, I mean, like I said, everything was just so rapid, and like, I didn't think of myself as a teenager.
Yeah.
Like, even though, like, I still wanted to go to school, and I had another group of friends that I would hang around with, and they weren't all into gangs, and they weren't, some of them play sports, some of them, just wind up getting jobs at young ages, but we all had our issues, but like, when it came to like my homeboys, it was like, that's like, we were all doing that, bro. All of
Yeah.
us were, and so, like, I remember, like, even my first year of high school, like, I joined the football team, and there, like, we got high every single day, bro, and it was like, we didn't even make it through the season. Before that season was over, it was like, I was getting ready to have a kid. My other homeboy, which was the quarterback, had gotten shot in the arm by an AK. Like,
Damn.
yeah, the other half of the team is in juvenile hall. It was like, none of us made. We didn't even make it to play a football game. You know what I mean? And it was like, we lived our lives like we were adults.
Yeah.
Like, even though we were kids, we still had to call our moms. Like, we still, like, we still had to ask them to buy us clothes sometimes. You
Yeah.
know, like, we couldn't do it all on our own, of course. But like, that was our mentality. We, like, nobody could tell us nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, when you get busted and you get released in the station or the halls, your parents have to pick you up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you kind of realize like, oh shit. Cause I seen homies too that they'll be like, damn, fool, I'm waiting for my mom. She needs to hurry up. I'm trying to get out of here. And I'm
Yeah.
like, Dad, I had to like, damn, fool, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's funny though. Yeah, but I mean, yeah. So I mean, and not all of it was so bad, bro. Like, like the thing that was cool about that time, like I said, was, like we used to ride the bus everywhere, and we I went to did a lot of cool stuff too. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and so like I mean, and nowadays, like I said, kids don't get outside. Like there's just it's kind of weird the way I see it now. Like we were outside so much, and maybe if we have better upbringings, I see why a lot of people like have these strong mentalities, because you had that exposure, and if you had the correct guidance, you probably went a lot further,
Mm-hmm.
because we were more cultured. Like kids don't get that culture, and with this whole epidemic thing, it's even more sad because like kids couldn't go to school, so they missed out on that whole year or two of social development, and we don't know where this is taking us, bro.
Yeah.
The way things are changing is so rapid, and it's like you got kids now, it's like they like every time you turn on the TV, it's like they're promoting this gay agenda thing, and it's like, and I don't want to say like, because I have friends that were gay, and I don't have nothing against them, but this whole agenda, like people didn't talk about those things back in those days, you know what I mean? It's like that type of stuff, like like was kept up, like it. So like, just the way of living, the way people conducted themselves was different, So like it was a cool time to be around.
At the same time, though, you have to remember, even with that, like going back to homie that killed himself, right? Because he
Yeah,
didn't feel accepted. There was a lot of that going on too.
yeah,
You know what I mean? So people weren't able to be who they wanted to be. Then
yeah. You're right.
you
Yeah.
had, you know what I mean?
And it was a super, I guess you would say, violent time as well.
Yeah,
'Cause
the '90s was
my,
no fucking joke.
yeah,
'80s and
heck
late
yeah,
'90s and or late '80s and the '90s,
yeah,
like they talk about crime going up. You talk about crime was back then.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so
I remember like the homie told me one time, he's like the easiest crime to get away with is murder, because nobody could tell on you, and it's like, but it was because there was no technology back
yeah.
then. There wasn't cameras like now. It's like,
And then we're gonna spend money on DNA testing and all that shit because it's just
bro.
another
And it
gang
wasn't
member.
it wasn't as advanced either.
Yeah, but now it's like, yeah, cell
Yeah.
phone, fucking, that's it. You're done.
Yeah, exactly, bro. They could pin you off a satellite and all this stuff. Like I mean,
And 'cause it's not that expensive either. All they have to do
Yeah.
is tell the fucking your
T-Mobile or
yeah,
whatever.
shoot that shit.
Yeah.
Shoot that shit. It's
Yeah.
over. Yeah.
I don't even know if it's T-Mobile now. They got like all these companies.
They're all the same though. You know, like,
Yeah.
they'll all shoot that shit willingly.
Yeah, sometimes that's funny too, because now that I'm like older, I don't realize that like even my punchlines or jokes when I'm clowning with the homies are played out, because they don't know what I'm talking about.
I saw you at the payphone the
Yeah,
other day.
yeah.
What
Like,
the
or
fuck?
you look like Horseshack or something. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
who's that? You know what I mean? Like they don't know what you're talking about half the time. Like, you know what I mean? So,
Like about
stuff
Pacific Bow and shit.
yeah,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like, are the cartoons we watch? But yeah. So it was just. I mean, it was a cool time though too.
Yeah.
Like you said, we could be in the back of trucks, and
Yeah.
and like to get together with your friends and go like to the beach and sit in the back of a truck. It wasn't safe, but stuff like that was kind of cool. You know what I mean? And being able to just go outside. So there was a lot of things that were good too. You know what I mean? But it was just like it was like everybody was from a gang. Everybody was gang affiliated. That was nothing.
Yeah.
That was just part of like everyday life. If you're a Mexican, you were gonna be part of a gang, and like as time went on towards the end of the '90s, it's like okay, well you could be a rebel or what was it, a Hauser, like,
Yeah, rebel. Even when in Monte, when I was growing up, they had vaqueros. So
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
fools
the
were
Cowboys,
straight
yeah.
like straight fucking paisad out. You know what I mean? And,
yeah,
and,
you're right.
and
yeah.
the gang of chicks would go for them. One girl even told me one time, like, you'd be cute if you were a vaquero. I said, fuck no, man, fucking gangster. Girl,
With the white Levi's and all
yeah,
that.
I'm cool with that. That's the rebel shit. Yeah, they would wear those. Yeah. I'm like, nah, I'm cool with all that
Yeah,
shit. I mean, I keep
I
this shit
know.
G.
But then now you look at it, it's like those dudes with those ostrich belts, that stuff was expensive.
Fuck
you know?
yeah, we used
you know
to
what
we
I'm
used
saying?
to we used to come up on those too.
Yeah,
I'd be
what I
slanging
mean?
those shits like crazy. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? Like,
everybody did that back then. Go hang out at the bars and rob the fights.
yeah, that's fucked up.
That
man.
was like a hobby.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, they come out all drunk, and you just be like
Yeah.
ostrich boots, a belt, a hat. Look at the X's on the hat. Make sure that's just correct. And
that's
you're like,
funny,
man,
bro.
yeah, it's fucked up.
And another thing too that I'm ashamed to admit it though, like because was robbing like the paleteros,
Yeah.
when we were kids. I remember I did that one time, and And I mean, I did it twice actually, and I regretted it. I remember one time like he fought back, and I'm glad he did, bro. He almost cut me with the machete, you know.
Damn.
And and like I mean, I'm like ashamed to even admit how I tried to rob this dude, but it was like on some scandalous stuff because I was using heroin at the time and I was young, and but anyhow I did that, bro, and like after that time, like I thought like I'm never gonna do this again. Like
Yeah.
these are some hardworking dudes, and like I wasn't raised like that. Like like what am I doing? Like and at that point, like I knew I was allowing the drugs to dictate like how I was
The
committing
drugs started
crimes.
doing you rather than you doing the drugs.
Exactly, bro. And it was like just like something I didn't want to do. So I was kind of like choicy in how I would commit like the crimes I would do to use drugs. You know what I mean?
Is that how you got into the bank things?
Yeah, and like I said, uh, my exposure to being a gangster was like these dudes were all bank robbers,
Mm.
So it was like that was something I wanted to do, like like I just thought like like you'd be much cooler if you were a bank robber, So it was like I remember we were all doing like all these highlights and stuff, and like my homies like I hit the 7-Eleven and he got like $70 or something, you know what I mean? And then this other
It's not
dude,
even worth it. I was like,
yeah,
damn,
you know what I
fool.
mean? And then
Over here risking fucking 5 years. You know what I mean?
yeah, back then it did break you off too. 85 man, 85. That was
Yeah.
that. And so it was like, man, like so. I remember we got together and we're like, we're gonna hit a bank. And I had always talked about it amongst my little crew because like that's all I heard. My dad and like those guys, they were all bank robbers. My uncle, like I had an uncle I was really close to, and he basically went to prison on my first birthday, and he barely got out a few years ago, But he originally went in for bank robberies, but other stuff he did while he was in there that got him in there kept him in there for so long. But and it was somebody I looked up to too, so it was like he was a bank robber, all these dudes. So it's like I remember we did that, bro, and then you can't go tell people about that,
Yeah.
but so anyways, that was something I had did, and I had like tucked in the back. Like I just knew that I was capable of doing that, and I can't say I wanted to because then I started having kids, so it was like I didn't want to do like things that crazy no more because I was getting kind of scared,
Yeah.
but at the same time when I would go around my neighborhood I would do things, but I always continued to use drugs, and I did these small crimes, and that like I don't know if you want to get into that now, but that little last spree that I went on like happened later in my life when I resorted back to doing that crime to get this type of money. But in between there, a lot of things had taken place.
Okay.
And so it's I mean, I don't know how far you want to go. Or
Well, what happened in between there then?
okay, so like I said, I started having kids, and I started going to prison for like I went for burglary first time. I got like 3 years. I had a P number, So like when I first went to prison, it was like, you were able to get, packages from the house, and when I got there, like I ran into a lot of my older homies, and I was grateful because I was laced up real cool. So anyhow, I'm gonna kind of just like leap forward. So I basically spent all my life like ripping and running, bro, and so as time goes on, I'll explain like this one time, like so. Anyhow, like I spent my whole life basically trying to run away from being addicted to drugs as well, and once I had seen what was happening in the neighborhood, because I'm gonna kind of leap forward because I could stay stuck there for a long time, but I also want to talk about something else, bro. But so anyhow, there was this one year that really kind of changed my whole life too, and it was like I think it was like probably like 2005, like one of my best friends, like I was telling you, he had gotten life, and then at this time it was like a lot of people were, maybe it was before that, but a lot of people were going at it within my own neighborhood, and a lot of dudes were killing each other, and I would say it was probably by the end of that year about 11 homies had died, and it was like all in-house stuff, and one of my partners told me, he's like, hey, look, like step away from all this and just look at it, and everybody who's getting their hands dirty they're basically not going to be around no more. That's just the way it works,
Yeah.
and so I seen that started happening, bro, And so during this time, like I said, I've always been a heroin addict. So a lot of times, the way the homies would greet me and take care of me was by giving me drugs. So one of them, like, he didn't want to see me out there struggling like that. So he gave me a considerable amount of drugs and told me, like, you move this, and basically this whole area is, all you. Ain't nobody going to mess with you. And gave me a car, like he gave me a Lexus and all this stuff, and was like, you just take care of business out here, and everything's all good. Like, you have problems, call me, whatever. And he seen, even though I use, like I said, I always wanted to carry myself as an honorable dude. Like, he didn't see all the scandalous times. Like I told you, when I was young and I had to rob the paletero man, or, or when I would be sick at home, or the times like like, even though I'm ashamed I am to admit it, I had to steal from my own family and stuff like that, bro. So he didn't see all that. All he seen was like a dude that was somewhat healthy. He knew I
You
knew,
kept up appearances and shit.
and he also knew that I knew how to, like, I knew all about heroin, bro. So he gave me a lot of it, and he told me basically, like, you do this or whatever. So that's what I was doing, bro. But during that time, like I said, all these murders were taking place, and it started getting closer and closer to, like, people that I had, just seen a couple of days ago. And it was like, like street politics were happening, and then, my homeboy Buddha, like, he was like somebody I looked up to, and then finally, like, it happened to him as well. And I was just like, dang, like, like, I'm running around with all these guys. Like, I know somebody's out there gunning for me.
Yeah.
And I don't know who it is, and I was becoming paranoid too, because I was using heroin and coke, so it's like I even thought my own family was telling on me, like, I was so paranoid I thought my dad was even working with the feds, because I noticed people were watching me all the time, and I wasn't crazy about that because they did have a surveillance on us, like, I remember I was so nuts that I had took a gun and put it under my seat, and I took my dad for a drive, and I don't know what I was going to do, but I was convinced in my brain that he was working with the cops.
It's a trip too. A lot of times, maybe people were even looking at you too, just because you're fucking wigged out of your mind. Yeah, they're like, that was trippy.
A little bit out there,
yeah.
Perhaps, But so, anyhow, when I took my dad for this ride, my dad being the slick dude that he is, bro, like, I can't say because he was just looking at me like not impressed, like he's sitting in the passenger seat, and I'm like all loked out, like, Dad, like, they're watching me, something's going on, like, I feel like you're involved, and he's like, first of all, where are we going? And I'm going, I don't even know what I'm doing, bro. I'm just going out to this field, and then so, like, and I know I have this gun under my seat, and like, and he's like, look, before we go any further, you say anything more, I need you to read this. And he pulls a pamphlet out of his pocket, and it talks about cocaine addiction and how it causes like hallucinations and all this mental stuff, and like he just completely shut me down, and like it was like a slap in the face, like, oh man, like, I'm tripping, and he's like, get your mind together, dude, like, what's wrong with you, and so, like, I'm probably bigger in my head what's really taking place, but I know that they were watching us, and because a lot of people got butt, and we seen it, so anyhow, when my partner gets, that happens to him, and, rest in peace, and like, I get kind of spooked, like I said, so I know it's like I need to get out of there, bro. And then, so I remember I got the last of this money I had collected, and like I like, it was a few $1,000s, and I had messed up his Lexus, bro, because I locked the keys in there.
Damn.
And I couldn't open it, so I just busted the window because I had money and drugs in there. So it's like this guy gave me this car, and it's like I'm only giving him half back of what I was supposed to earn for the drugs. There's a big old hole in his Lexus, and I have this gun, and it's like that was the only thing I basically owned, and I had already had kids by then, so it was like, I remember I took my homie with me. I was like, look, bro, like this is getting to be too much, man. Like I feel like I'm losing my mind. I feel like somebody's gonna come and get me. I need to get away. And my sister, she had lived in like Central California.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm gonna take off for a little bit. And my homeboy was spooked of me too, cause like I said, I was a little nutty myself, So like I pulled over into this alley, and like my homeboy just takes off running. Like, I guess he thought I was gonna do something to him. I was like, no, get back over here, man. I go, this is what I want. Take this car, take this money, and turn this in. And then like this like how you talked about earlier, giving the straps.
Yeah.
I was like, this is all you, bro. Like, don't let nobody do nothing to you, because he was out there too, and like I don't want nothing to happen to him. I was like, protect yourself, keep your eyes open, bro. Like Like we don't know where it's coming from these days, you know.
Yeah.
And so like I took off, bro, you know. And so when I went out there, I didn't have nothing, you know. I went to my sister's, and like I'm strung out. I left all this money back. My sister's like, you can stay here, but you don't bring none of that, nothing with you. I don't want none of your drama. I don't want no drama at this house. You
There's no
cannot,
feds out here, so chill the fuck
yeah,
out.
you
Yeah.
cannot get in trouble
Yeah.
out here. Like do not, because like she was a correction officer, bro.
Oh shit.
Yeah, she's younger than me, and she's crazy herself too, bro. Like you know, like she's not like, but so she knew what time it was, bro. You know, but she let me stay there, and then so when I got there, I had this tremendous drug habit because I had been dealing, bro, and so it's like, I just wanted to stop, so I like literally laid on her floor, and didn't get up for like about a month, bro.
Damn.
Yeah, I sweated the drugs out. I kicked, bro. Like I went through it, you know. And you know, I was proud of myself at that time, bro. You know, cause I had did that. You know, and my sister was too, and so she took me out, and like we celebrated once I felt better. You know, cause she seen me going through it, man. Like psychological changes, and during that time, I went through some depression. Like I can't, like I didn't imagine I would go. I was
Yeah.
having
There
nightmares.
were a lot of chemical changes happening too. So
Everything, bro. Like I was like leaving everything, and it was like I was having all these nightmares. Like I didn't even want to go and sit in the same room as her and her family because I feel like I was gonna bring some type of bad spirits in there, bro. You know, so I like still kept my distance even in her own house, and like I didn't want to fully be part of her family because I felt like I didn't want to taint what they had there. Cause my hands just felt, I feel so dirty, bro. Like I feel like a dirty, ugly person, you know. And so like I was all miserable, but she was proud of me when I stopped, bro. And so like, you know, long story short, I started feeling a little better, and I lived out there for a little while. And what I realized was that's a drug town too, bro.
oh shit.
And so it's like, you know, I don't know, like for some of us, if that's like I was talking to my wife about mental health earlier, and like I don't know if that's how maybe we self-medicate ourselves.
Oh yeah,
you know?
definitely. Yeah.
You know, so it's like I still feel all these things, bro. Like you know, like no matter where you go, you take yourself with you.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like I'm still with this anxiety. I'm still having all this depression. I'm not really caring what's going on in the neighborhood no more because it's like my heart kind of drifted away from that, and I wanted to do better by my kids. And,
How old are they at this point?
I'm probably like, I'd already been to prison a couple of times. I'm probably like maybe 25, 26.
Your kids are about what, 10, 9 years old?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And my youngest, she was probably about like 4 at this time, you know. And so anyhow, I'm out there now, and I stood there for a little while, and I find out it's a drug town, and I start using again, bro.
Damn.
And so I end up like, you know, trying to break into this place, and I get caught, and I go to jail up there. And so like when I go to jail up there, I had bailed out because I had been working, and my sister was proud of me, so she helped me with some money, so I bailed out. But like I knew basically that I wasn't gonna have to go back in, so you know I went back home to Pomona, told everybody what's going on, and you know they shot me with a little clavo so I could take with me and all that stuff. So I went back in there, you know, going to court, pretty much preparing to turn myself in on the next court date so I could go see what's going on.
Yeah.
And they offered me a smooth deal, bro. Like I'm not gonna lie, like I had got a lawyer, and I only needed him for like a court date because I went in there and I spoke for mine too. And I remember even the judge commented me like, you could do better with your life. He's like, you seem like a smart guy, you know. Maybe he was intrigued with that I was from LA too, you know.
Yeah.
And so, but like I just never had a judge talk to me like that. So I thought it was a trip, you know. So anyhow, like I ended up getting like about a year, you know. And during that time, they were investigating me for some other crimes too, you know. And so when I went into that county jail, you know, it's a smaller area. You know, we got homies up there, like you know, those Southerners from up north and stuff, and they're a little different. Some of them, you know, in the part that like they feel like gang banging is like they have to go at it with the Northerners. You know, it's like you know, like of course you're gonna go at it with them. You live up there, bro. Yeah. They don't like that. You know what I mean? So it's like
just like they're doing the same thing as us. It's just up there. Yeah.
A little bit, but not really. You know, because like down here, I don't know. It's like we're going through more. This is like you know, so it's different, bro.
Yeah.
And so anyhow, I'd like
that's because like it blocks and shit. Like boom. Yeah.
We're gang banging out here, bro, and it's cracking out here. You know, so anyhow, when I get in there with those dudes, like I feel like they hated on me. they were like hating on me because of where I'm from. Not that I carry myself like I'm all that, and I brought enough drugs to share in there, bro. You know what I mean? So it was like I was passing around to who I felt deserved what,
Yeah.
and I guess somebody got offended in there because I didn't give them something.
Felt
And
slighted and shit, huh?
yeah, try to push up on me. You know what I mean? And I wasn't having that. Like I had already made, phone calls before I got there and talked to the right people that my stay was gonna be comfortable, bro. So, like I wasn't preparing. Like I wasn't trying to deal with these problems. So, anyhow, these dudes try to make like some little type of move on me, bro. Like in the day room when I came out, and like so, I did my thing right there, and so when they came and broke it up, busted me, whatever. They hit my cell and they found some drugs.
Oh, fucked up.
Yeah, I had like a bunch of pills, like all this oxycontin, all this stuff too. And so anyhow, the seal that took it, they take me to the hole right away. And their hole is like it's single man cell. And so like it was cool. The unit, honestly, I liked it, bro, because you were able to get like a little radio right there, and you go to store $25 a week. So like I didn't want to be like I didn't want to go back to that block because it was like tore up. There was roaches in there.
Yeah, yeah.
They was dirty, bro. They dudes didn't. They weren't
Now
doing
you're getting
it right.
now you're getting room service and shit.
Yeah, so I'm
Yeah.
like, so I'm cool right there. So then, so they're coming up, and I'm like waiting on this write up or possibly a DA referral, and like I noticed that seal that was walking by, like he looked loaded, bro. I know the look. You can't lie to
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I know he took all those pills, and he's like, look, Alba, like I'm gonna keep you housed in here till you leave here. And he's like, I feel like he isolated me there because he didn't want me to like, which I wouldn't have anyways, was maybe tell on him.
Yeah.
But I know he took my stuff, bro. And he's like, I'm not gonna say nothing. And in fact, I'm gonna hold on to those drugs. And if you get in any more trouble, they're gonna appear, and you're gonna have a case against you. And so I'm looking at him like, man,
You stole my shit.
Yeah, you're high, man. What you
know what's
talking?
the shit though? It kind of goes back to when you were younger, when you were jacking the connect. Now you're the connect. And you got
I
jacked.
got jacked. Yeah. Yeah, but I didn't look at it like that because I'm happy that I'm not gonna be dealing with this case.
Yeah.
And again, I'm in the hole. So it's like, and like I said, I'd rather be housed there anyway. So when I'm sitting in that hole, like this is the first time like I really started thinking about my whole life, bro.
Yeah.
Because I'm isolated and like like when you go to like a lot of dudes been in the hole, and like this is my experience because there's dudes that have done like decades, and I commend them for keeping their sanity. And I'm not saying I'm one of those, but this was enough for me, bro. So
Yeah.
So when I'm there, like I started just like feeling the depression of like what I didn't do for my family, what I didn't do for my kids. Like,
Because you said they're older by this point.
they're older by this point, like even though I have to like keep an upstanding, like appearance to the homies and everything, like inside I'm like broken, bro. You know what I mean? And that time when I'm in there, it's like I've never longed for like to just shake somebody's hand because it's like because
No human interaction.
no human interaction, bro. Like you like when the other dudes go out to yard, they got a group, and you're by yourself, So it's like I started feeling jealous when I was looking outside, and I'll see like the homies, like the little homie hug, playing basketball, and all that stuff, and I'm just right there, and I'm thinking like, damn, what do I do to like end up like having to live my life like this? And like I said, there were other cases that were pressing, so I wasn't sure if I was gonna even go home, I wasn't sure if these cases they were gonna have enough, evidence to come and file them on me. So during that time, I started thinking like, dang, what if I had to live my life like this? Like, what if I wind up?
This is
like,
it, huh?
Yeah. What if I wind up like my uncle that I looked up to so much? What if I wind up like that dude? And because he's always in the hole. Like he it's like a sport to him. He'll go in there for a couple years, come out, be on the main line for a little while, and go back in there. And like I just like the psychological aspect of it. Like I didn't think that I could handle it, bro. And I started praying. I started praying a little bit and asking God, like like help me change my life, man. And so like it started like it didn't happen like right away like that, but I started feeling like a little bit of comfort.
Yeah.
When I would read the Bible, when I would pray, like there's times I would think about my kids, and I'm not like ashamed to admit it. I would start crying, and I felt a little better like, after that would happen, So anyhow, the person I was with at that time, bro, like what I was thinking, like when I come home, I'm gonna just work on that relationship and be a better dad to my kids, like, and so sure enough, that time comes, bro, and they don't file on these cases, bro. Like, that time came and went for them to file. And when we go to court, my lawyers are like, look, wait, it's do or die right now. Like, they're gonna drop these cases, and because they gotta let you out now. Like, your time is up as far as the deal you took. Because I took some joint suspension and like some year thing, deal up there just to get out of there. So I was like, I'm all right, cool, So when I get out, I'm gonna just focus on that
Yeah.
and try to rebuild my family, Because like I had hurt my kids so much, and the person I was with and everything. So anyhow, that day came. I called my sister to come pick me up, and she's like, "You don't want to go home yet?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do. Like, that's all I want is to go home. What you mean? Like, I've
Yeah.
been waiting this whole time." And she's like, "No, trust me, you don't." And so, what I didn't know was during that time that the person I was with, like, she had just packed up everything in that little apartment we had and left, and it was completely empty when I got there.
Yeah.
There was nothing there. She didn't tell me she was doing that. She just took my kids and ran, and just like I went back to an empty apartment. And I remember I looked around in there, and I was like, dang. So like,
You devastated from that shit?
yeah, it hurt. It hurt. Cause and then I didn't know where my kids were, and it took months before I got back in contact with her. But it was like the next day, I was on the first thing out of there back to my neighborhood, and that's not what I planned.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't my plans. That wasn't the plan. The plan, like I said, and I thank God it didn't happen because it allowed me to meet my wife later on in life.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that didn't happen.
Yes, sir.
We good on time and all?
Yeah, yeah, don't even trip. Nah, I don't even trip.
All right, yeah. So, I mean, so anyhow, bro. So I wind up back over there in Pomona, and it's like I was living with a friend of mine that's from, he's from the neighborhood, but he had been doing a little better, so he owned his own home, and he was trying to look out for me, like as a homeboy and a older homie, and he knew my mental state was probably like a little shook because he had been around me when I was with this person and around my kids, and he loved my kids, bro.
Yeah.
Like, he loved my son, and I like, so he knew that I was hurting, bro, to not be around it. And you know how we are. We joke about things, So I would say things like jokingly.
Yeah.
And he's like, and that's what I love about him is because he's like, you can't mean that, bro. He's like, because I know you got to be going through it.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you ain't that hard, fool. He's like, I know it hurts, And like, so I was able to like express some of that to him, that like, like that I was hurting and all that, and so, but I feel like that it took me right back into the drugs right away because I wanted to mask that pain again, So,
Yeah.
So there I am back, like using the drugs, and I didn't want to disrespect this house by staying there much longer. So it's like, I left, I told him I'm gonna go, and I don't like, I just kind of was like bouncing around and just, just trying to go through relationships, just, like meeting these girls, not because I liked them or loved them, but because I wanted a place to stay, and I wanted to like, like be, and that's like kind of what I was doing, But when I look back at it, I was probably like one of those homies that I would see when I was a kid that I didn't respect that much.
Yeah.
Because I just looked at him like this dude's like, no matter what he says, he's like a dope fiend,
Mm-hmm.
And so I was thinking like that, So I was like, man, like I can't just go out like that. You know what I mean? Like, so I was trying to step it up a little and relive some of the glory days and being in the neighborhood and making up for lost time and doing things, and so like during this time, like I ended up going to jail a couple more times and fought a couple more cases, and when I got out, I had I had met my wife, and like during this time, like I was faced with this critical decision. I remember because I had a homie that was getting out, and like we were making plans to do things, and so it was like he wanted me to be straight mentally. He's like, look, bro, like clean up, like get your stuff, like we're gonna be on, bro, when I come out, like we're gonna do it, and he's like and I had, by this time I'm older, bro, like I'm like almost 40 now. This is like towards like right before all this. I know, like I'm probably like in my mid-30s, bro.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I have met and know so many people from different areas. Like I was sharing with you, there's dudes from your neighborhood, So like, you know, like I know we know all these people, you know, just from being in that life for so long, bro. Like, you know, I was like, all right, bro, like we could do things. Like I know a lot of people. I got a lot of plugs on different things, and we could make it happen and do something, you know. And he's like, this time it's gonna be different for me when I come out, cause I've been granted like blessed with a little bit more, you know, permission to do things. And he's like, so there ain't no stopping this, you know.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, cool, you know. So I'm trying to sharpen up, you know. I'm trying to clean up. I'm out there in L.A., you know. I'm like, I was staying at some program to like get my hair right, and like that's where I met my wife, bro. Like, you know, we started talking, and like we had these conversations, bro, about like what type of. She asked me questions like, what type of life would you like to live? Like, if you could live any way, like, what would your idea of like a home be? Like, if you could have your own home, like, you know, what do you think of aliens? You know,
Yeah, yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, what do you feel about God? You know, and what got me was like the first time we talked, it was like 5 in the morning, and I'm trying to be like some super like like criminal dude. Like I'm getting up to go on a jog, you know,
Yeah.
and go for a run. It's like 5 in the morning. I'm drinking my coffee, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" You know, and she's like, "Well, I'm waiting for the kids to bring back the car because I'm gonna go to church, and so I could go praise God."
Mm-hmm.
And like, you know, and I was just like, you know, I'm gonna go work out because it sounds cool to impress a girl that you work out and stuff.
Yeah.
But really, there's all these other intentions that are you know, like going on behind all this stuff too. And it's like, but I thought like, dang, like what's that like, you know? Like,
Mm.
dang, what would that be like, you know? It's Sunday. I didn't think of that, you know? I didn't think, I mean, yeah, I had been introduced to God. I had heard about him. I had heard of church. You know, I knew all these things. You know, I was raised like a Catholic. And, you know, like, even when we used to go to church, you know, like, my dad would be checking out the girls and making comments. And we'd be looking. And, like I said, I got whooped by Catholics. So, like, you know, the way I felt about God was, like, conflicted, bro. And you know, we had got introduced to, it's a trip, too, because my mom was cutting this woman's hair for all this time. And, like, she had this picture of me on her mirror.
Mm.
And it was, like, you know, like, when I was younger and I was lifting weights. And, like, you know, I have my little tats or whatever. And that lady asked her, like, you know, who's that boy right there? And she's like, that's my son. Like, he's out there. He's crazy, you know. Like,
Yeah.
you know, he's like my husband. He just gives me nothing but problems. And she's like, well, you know, my husband was like that. He was a heroin addict. And he got his life together. And he started a church. Like, he was the founder of Victory Outreach, bro.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So, like, my mom had been cutting this lady's hair the whole time, bro. So, like, you know, so, like, she's like, invite them to my church. And like, this was like in the early 90s. I don't even know what year it was, but I remember we went there, and I never seen nothing like this. It was like funny because there was dudes like banging the cymbal, and like dudes were like running down the thing dancing. Like,
Yeah.
it was crazy, and they were all bald headed homies.
No, I remember that shit. Not that I don't remember what you're going to do, but I remember my one of my uncles had went to instead of going to the joint, he went to like a halfway house.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was like what's it
men's home
called
or
Shining
something?
Light Ministry. It was called in Valinda, I believe, or somewhere out there, like Puente, somewhere right there.
Yeah.
And I remember I tripped out on that because like the same thing as you. I mean I went to a Catholic church growing up and shit, and
Yeah.
you stand up, sit down, all that shit, right?
Yeah.
And then they played music and they were running around all crazy, and
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
"What the fuck is going on?" You know? Like I was
it
tripping out and shit, and I was
trips
like,
you out, bro.
"Yeah,
Yeah. So, like, but this church was it was in I think it was in Bassett at the time. It was on Don Julian, like over there in like Puente area.
yeah,
And so, like, the church was cool, bro. Like, you know, I went there and I was impressed, you know. And I can't say I didn't feel nothing because I did. Because at the time, you know, even though we were loaded, me and my dad, you know, we walked in that church, like, we were both going through it, you know. Like, you know, whether we admit it or not, because it was like my mom sent me there and him, you know, like, because that was one of the conditions, like, you know, on her coming back was that my dad had to straighten up. And like, naturally, he wants his son to straighten up too.
yeah,
Like, you know, so, like, we went there. And then, like, I had got in trouble during that time. So I had to have been, like, 15 or so because they had a youth home. And the judge asked me, like, you know, if I wanted to go that I was going to go to camp and all this stuff, right? And so, like, they knew these people, and they were like, you know, we have a home that we could send them to, like a youth home, you know? And so I remember I went to that youth home, and there was Victory Outreach people that ran it. And in that home they didn't really press like church on us like that. I mean, we had to go, but we were kids, bro. Like
Yeah.
there was a bunch of all messed us, bro. And what was a trip? There were kids that were in there that were coming out of YA too, I mean, not sure they don't mind like the homie Conejo from Bassett was there, Ghetto from Bassett, like like Mouse from East LA. A lot of dudes, like a lot of these dudes are passed away now. They're
Oh
not even
shit.
around, or some of them are doing bad. But so anyhow, we're all in this home, and I'm kicking heroin in there, and as a little kid, and these guys are some of them were coming out of YA, some of them are kicking heroin too, but like we're all still kids, so it was like being busted, but not really, because like
Yeah.
even when we got there was like still a little bit of the gangbang, because it's like, where are you from? And so like that guy's solution to that was he set up a boxing ring with gloves, and we could all fight when we had like a disagreement, and he
Mm.
taught us some things on how to box, and he prayed for us, and he showed us a lot of love, bro. So like I can't say that like I didn't want to be a Christian, because like my views on Christianity were like really warped, because like I said, I had knew about my heritage, so I always felt Christians, like I thought of the Inquisition when I thought of Christians. I thought of how like they did all this stuff to the Indians and all this stuff, and so that's kind of like how I felt about it. So I didn't know anything about really a relationship with God, but what like that's, if I could say anything, that's where I seen people that did have a relationship with God, and I seen how it worked in their lives, because all these dudes were homies, and some of them were even dudes that like I had like seen as a kid,
Yeah.
like some of these dudes were like ex mafia dudes that used to come to my house and mess with my dad, and now they're Christians, and so here they are going out to dinner with my dad and stuff like that, and at the same time, which any organization is going to be criticized, because you see hypocrisy in there. You see dudes that don't really live up to what they're saying. But that's in any organization. And
Yeah.
the way I see it, it's like, what do you expect, bro? Like, you're dealing with the worst of the worst. So when a person goes back or goes back out, that doesn't mean they go and like slip up on a cuss word or have a drink. They go back to what they knew. And what did
Yeah.
they know? That was madness, bro.
Yeah.
So it's like, I always had that respect for those Christians like that, because like at different times in my life, like they're the ones that showed me love at points where, like I don't know, I was telling another homie the other day, and I was talking about like back in the days when we used to cruise Whittier Boulevard, and I remember like seeing some Christians come up to us, and they were like, like passing out these flyers, and they were homies, but you could tell they were happy, bro.
Yeah.
And it's like, even though we're there and we're having a good time in a different sense, we still know that by the end of the night, like, because we got guns in the car, like something might pop off, somebody might get shot,
Yeah.
and like we're all on drugs, and here these dudes are. So it's like, I remember they gave us this flyer, and like the homies rejected it, but I took it, and I just thought, like, like, dang, like I respect that.
Yeah.
And so like, I just stored it away in my mind, didn't think much of it. So during this time while I'm like in the hole, and I'm experiencing this solitude, bro, and I'm reading all these books, and I'm doing all this stuff, and I used to read all this like Carlos Castaneda books, and like I was really like twisted, like, like my mindset, and like how I kept strong like through all of this stuff, like, I believed all these warrior teachings and all this crazy stuff, and like, and I was making all these decisions as to like what I'm gonna do, because I feel like, by the time you're the age that I was, which was like in my late, like my 30s, that you should either be established or you should already be what you're gonna be. And here I was, and I wasn't,
Yeah.
and it was mostly the drugs that kept me from that. So when I met my wife and we started having this discussion, I started actually thinking that maybe I could just live my life as perhaps a Christian, even though I didn't want to use that title, or a person that was seeking God, or maybe I could live with a woman that wasn't corrupted like that, a person that wasn't involved in this lifestyle. And I remember during that time I had written my homeboy a letter, and I had told him that, like, like during the time when all those murders were taking place, that like I wish I could just be somebody else, and maybe it's God calling me. And I never sent him that letter, but I remember I found it, and I read it, and like it seemed like these little pieces to this puzzle were starting to come together to form a bigger picture of what life could actually be.
Mm.
And so like, my wife was like, and I didn't want to be one of those dudes that was like, like, oh, I do this because my wife does that, or my wife says this,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
like, I don't know, like, Kevin Hart called it like a battered man, like, where you just start talking about your wife for no reason. It's like, I didn't ask you that, I didn't want to be one of those dudes
Like, you
that,
want to get some French toast? My wife loves French toast.
yeah, like what, like, yeah, I didn't want to be like that, like just doing things
Yeah.
cause of her, like so. But so that was like something that was like showing me, maybe God was showing me that, like, like this is something that I could give you, this, like, and like, like this is possible, it's
Mm-hmm.
possible to be in a relationship with somebody you actually, like, listen to what they have to say. You didn't just walk all over them, and so my eyes started like opening up a little bit, bro, like, like to a different life. And but I still knew what I was also committing myself to as
Yeah.
well. So like, as me and her started talking, and we started, actually seeing each other, and like going places, or I didn't share with her everything, because it's like, I don't know, it's, how are you gonna tell a clean, a good civilian person that, that you were a heroin addict, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like, these are shameful things, bro. Like, how do you don't say too much,
Yeah.
and in some sense of the manner, it's for their own protection as well, because like, you don't want them to know all these things. Like, you don't want to expose their lives to this ugly place that you live in, bro. So in one sense, that was how I justified a lot of the lies that I said, because like, I didn't want to expose this type of stuff, and I didn't even want to talk about it with her.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I talked about other things, the person I wanted to be, and the things I wanted to do, and I knew this time was coming to where I had to make this decision. Like, what am I gonna do here? Like, because if I get involved with this person, there's no way I could be
Yeah.
running around like that, And how am I gonna look if I go and tell these dudes, like, I'm gonna go with this girl, like, I don't know her or whatever, but I'm gonna just like, like, come on,
Yeah.
they ain't want to hear that.
Before you
You
tripping now, what are
catch
you
a
doing? Yeah.
backhand for that or something, you know what I mean? And so I was just like, like, how am I gonna do this, And so I figured, I'm gonna give it a shot, man. Like, so I started spending more time with my wife, and I kind of told my friends more or less, like, look, I met somebody, and it's like, I want to just try to do something different, and surprisingly, like, come on, if you're a friend, you're gonna, like, who wouldn't
Yeah.
respect that, bro?
That's a lot of misconceptions people have
Who
is
wouldn't?
well, when you're on the streets, you're gonna do what you think is best for you and your crowd, right? Like you can do you and your boys. But as you get older, most of us just kind of just want regular shit, right? So it's like if your boys want to do regular shit, you're not gonna be like, "What's up, man? What the fuck?" You be like,
Yeah,
"Handle that shit, G.
yeah.
Like do your thing."
All love, all
Yeah.
love, bro. You want that, if you're a real friend, you want that. I never condone this lifestyle to anybody, bro. Like, I remember one time I seen some younger homies tatting up their face and stuff, and they were getting ready to load up their car to go to the lake or something, and it's like, here, me and the homie, we just happened to be at this house, and we're cleaning off this gun, and we're preparing to go do this other holiday, like, just so we could pay the bills, bro. To pay like some like, actually, to pay some bills.
Yeah.
And so, like, I was telling that dude, like, look, man, like, there you go, man, you're burning your face, bro. Like, you know how old we are, like, what we're doing, like, all that stuff we did, like, it was like for like a pat on the back, bro. Like, cause I can't go to none of these dudes and ask them to help me pay my rent. So, like, what I'm about to do right now, like, just so I could pay a bill, bro. Like, is this the kind of life you want to live? So I was never the type of dude to condone that either. So, like, anytime I see my friends or somebody I cared about advancing in their life, I always push them towards that. Dudes I was in jail with, and some of it gets misconstrued, because, like, when you start speaking to the youngsters, if they're not really catching, like, if you, like, that's why you gotta be more specific, bro. You
Yeah.
gotta like, tell them, like, the truth.
Yeah, you could even kind of try to talk them out of it other ways too. Be like, you're gonna get tattoos all on your face. When you do something, they're gonna know who it is right away.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
Just
that,
say,
or
think about it, don't burn the spot, fool.
yeah, or like, even like, with like I said, because things get perverted in our lifestyle when it comes to like the morals we have. like sometimes it's even important to distinguish the difference between the morals. Like, because I remember I had this kid in the cell with me one time, and he was from this neighborhood, and like a lot of his friends were telling on him, you know. So I was like, look, bro, like you have a different character than your buddies that you're hanging out with. You need to like be more on your toes and look at who you're involving in your circle, bro.
Mm.
And it's like the problem is with you guys is like you're not cleaning house like that. When we were kids, like we cleaned house. They're like dudes had to be around a certain amount of time before they got involved in anything just to see where their heart was at before
Yeah.
you even did something, bro. So it's like, but this guy went out there and he ended up like killing two dudes that were
Damn.
talent, bro. And within about 2 months, he was back in for the rest of his life, bro. You know what I mean? He was and I was sitting in the cell in the county when he came back and told me like what he went and did and everything, and I didn't mean it like that.
Yeah.
You know, that's not what I meant, bro. Like, you know, so it's like that's why I said it's like, you know, we got to be a little more specific too when we are explaining things, you know. But so anyhow, like my friends, they didn't have much qualms when it came to like, you know, like taking a chance with this person, you know. And even at that, it didn't even matter, you know, because like my life was like so messed up, bro. Like what did I have to lose
Yeah.
by trying? But what I didn't see too was that like I was I was like, I don't realize this till later. Like what I'm still learning now is that you're responsible for another person too when you have
Oh yeah,
in your
definitely.
relationships. Like it's not just you no more. It's them too. You know.
Yeah.
And so like all these lies and all this stuff I was doing too, like were creating problems later in life. You know. And so like what happened was, you know, I would always talk to her. Like you said, we had these conversations about aliens and stuff too.
Yeah.
So I was like so into these conspiracy theories. Like I read all these David Icke books, bro, and like I was like super children of the Matrix out and like completely sold. And like, you know, I read all these books on all this witchcraft and all this, like, cause you know we gravitate towards the darkness, bro. So like I knew that I was living in a darker realm. So like I accepted that. Like I knew I wasn't serving God. I knew that, and it didn't bother me, you know. Like and I knew that it was like something darker that was giving me the strength to get through the things that I had done, and I didn't give the credit to God. But see, my wife, she did, you know, she did. She believed in God during that time, and I used to even make her watch all these documentaries, you know, on all these conspiracy theories and all these things about like Jesus, you know, because they have like all these different metaphors for these different types of gods, and you could take it in any civilization. Like, you know, the Jesus could be like Ashtar, or, you know, like in these like, you know, Sumerian like texts. Like, so I would tell her all these things that I had learned through studying and reading, and like she was getting tired of it, bro. You know,
Mm.
because I was like trying to convince her like that, like, you know, I believed in all this stuff, bro, and I did, you know, like, so I felt it give me strength, you know. So like anyhow, I remember one day she just like, look, she's like, I don't want to hear this no more. I don't want to watch these things. They're not comfortable. And she's like, what do you think of when you think of like your God, this God you have in your head, you know? And like, I picture like a stone, bro, like something in the middle of a desert, in the middle of like a sandstorm, and it's just like all these elements are hitting it in the face, and it's just able to stand through all that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like our experiences in prison, you know, like it's solitude, it's there, it's strong, it's like, you know, it's an immovable force, you know, something that's strong, you know. And she's like, well, does your God, when you think of it, does it make you want to lift your hands up to it and give it all the pain you have in your heart and cry to it? And I thought like no, you know. And I knew I had a ton of pain in my heart, bro. Like I knew I was just like I was ridden with that pain. Like
Yeah.
I lived my life to avoid it, you know. So like I knew that that's not how I felt about God. That wasn't my views on God, you know. So I knew that like I wanted that pain to be gone. So I didn't know how to get rid of it. All I knew was how to take drugs and not feel these things, you know.
Yeah.
And even if I was doing drugs not to feel those things, it had become more than that because it had just became what I did. That
Yeah.
was, you know, I went to jail, I got loaded, and I'm in the neighborhood, and I'm available for things that are basically wrong, you know. And so I didn't stand or live my life for things that were, and I had kids, bro. And it's like, even though I try to instill good morals, no matter what I did, no matter how much, I never told my kids about God. So anything I ever thought I was doing that was good, I wasn't being a good dad because like I wasn't there to provide. I wasn't like other dads that have been involved in their lives. So I wasn't offering them something that was like lasting,
Yeah.
something that was like gonna be there for them because I didn't know what they had gone through. And I could only imagine, which I do know, that they've had some traumatic experiences because, I thought what my dad put me through was a lot, and he didn't have his dad.
Hmm.
But he actually did a pretty good job, bro. Because despite of all that, and other people will disagree, like he provided and he was there, and he helps my kids. But see, I didn't even do that.
Yeah.
Whether I consider myself a good dude because like I wasn't the cheater. I wasn't open about these things to my like in front of my kids. I still wasn't around.
Yeah.
Like they knew I was on drugs. Like you can't hide the fact that you're a heroin addict, bro. Come
Probably
on, man.
wondering why dad's never around and all that shit.
All that stuff, bro. I had them in places that like a kid should not have been in. Like around people. Like like the same thing my dad was doing. I was trying to convince them that these are some good guys. When they're like tatted up, like they probably look like monsters to my kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like these are the people I had around them. So it's like I didn't think of all that stuff. Like really during that time. But now I'm thinking of all these things, bro. And it's like I'm thinking of my own life, and I'm not feeling sorry for me, but I'm thinking like, dang, like I deserve better. I could have a good wife. I could have a good life. So anyhow, as we got together, like I said, I continued to lie because I was like going back and forth with this lifestyle,
Yeah.
and I continued to use drugs, and like she got tired of it, bro.
Damn.
And so are we good?
Yeah. Don't even
Okay.
shoot me.
So like like which I can't blame her. She wanted to leave me, and she warned me about it, bro. She warned me like I'm gonna leave you if you keep doing this and all that, and like I didn't know, like I would just like go work and like lose a job, find another one, and get loaded and like and I mean this was before because that like before all that happened we made a decision to get married, and it was really quick and swiftly,
Yeah.
like after we had met, and she jumped in and she didn't know what she married, bro. She didn't take the time, even to this day when we get in an argument she'll be like, if I only knew, like she didn't know what she signed up for, bro. Like like she's married a crazy person, a street kid, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, have you ever seen that movie Black Mass?
Nah, I haven't seen Black Mass.
No, well, it's like this dude, like he's a lawyer, and I mean he's an FBI agent. Anyhow, like he grew up with the gangsters, and like
Yeah.
when his time comes, his wife leaves him because he's still loyal, and he's like, you married a street kid, like like
Yeah.
like I don't know if you know it, but you don't like the only thing I know is loyalty and friendship.
Yeah.
So it's like like that's kind of like what my wife did, bro. So it's like she married me not knowing all this stuff, and here I am, like sometimes I'm waking up in the middle of the night screaming, like I'm having like all these issues, and she's like, man, why do you have so many dang issues, like she goes around my family and they're crazy, everybody's arguing in that house all the time, and it's like my sister's off the hook, she didn't stay a correctional officer, she ended up like losing her job. My sister's awesome, bro. Like she's always been there for me, I love her to death, bro, and she's doing good in her life, but just she was crazy too.
Yeah.
She still want to be partying and living a wild lifestyle. So it's like that's just how we are. So like what I mean. So like a lot of times, and her family's gone through their own things. I'm not gonna say anything because they're all good people, bro. Like everybody, I'm surrounded by nothing but good people now. But,
Yeah.
and like anybody I let in or allow in our lives. But so anyhow, bro, like during this time, like like I kept trying and failing, and so like she got tired of it, like any woman would, bro. Like you can't if you're doing all that stuff, you cannot expect a girl to stand by your side, and if they do, like that's awesome, bro. Like you got some gold on your hands, bro. Like if kids like us, one thing we know is when we got something good, bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, so I knew I had something good, bro, and then anyhow I just didn't know how to take care of myself. So like so my wife got tired of it, bro, and she wanted to leave me, and she did leave me, bro. And so it's like during this time, prior to that, I was like driving trucks, and I was trying to make enough money to like support us.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd always known how to like sell drugs or be a good thief, like enough money to where I could make enough like to like be comfortable times, you know.
Yeah.
And like, you know, the whole being a bank robber too, you know, like, and all that stuff, you know, like that's like something I always wanted to like be that, you know. So it's like during this time when she left me, like I was so depressed, homie. Like you
Yeah.
know, like it hit me, bro. Like, so I'm back in the neighborhood. I'm running around. You know, like I wanted to kill myself, bro. Like I'm on drugs. Like I'm hardcore on drugs, bro. Like, and so like everybody I'm running around with it in my little circle is on dope, bro. And during this time, I had reconnected with a dude from my past, and he was from another neighborhood, but he knew everybody in my neighborhood too. And so it's like during this time, like he's having trouble with his family, but he's like kind of low on his mortgage, you know.
Yeah.
And so it's like that's funny how these are the problems we
Yeah.
low on the mortgage, you know. Usually you're low on like a bag of weed or so, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he's low on the mortgage, you know. So it's like I was like, hey, you know, we could. He just got out for robbing a bank too, you know. So I was like, hey, like you know we could bust a lick real quick, you know, and you know, and I'll help you with that, bro. Like and you know, like you should stay out of it because you just got out, bro. So I was like, you know, so like I mean, and I could talk about these things because I've already been convicted on it, bro.
Yeah.
So it was like you know, like let's like I got this, bro. Like I'm gonna help you out with that, you know. And like I said, like I always wanted to be a good dude, like be honorable like that.
Yeah.
So like, and then at the same time, I wanted to like give my kids stuff, and I wasn't sure if I even wanted to stay alive, you know, because like I said, I felt suicidal, bro. So I started hitting these banks, bro. Like you know, I started running up in these places and I started hitting them,
Did you
bro.
go in disguises and shit, or
Um, I didn't make much effort to use a disguise, and thank God I didn't use a weapon because you know you didn't have to.
they just give them the note and shit? Yeah.
Are you explaining it? I even didn't want to give them a note because one of them tried to take the note back from me. So like I started using verbals, you know, like I'm not gonna give up the whole game because I don't want some kid to go out there
Yeah.
and try
Do
this.
that shit. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it ain't you know it ain't what you think, bro. But it's pretty simple, you know. So like so anyhow I started hitting all these spots, bro, and I helped, you know, of course, I helped the homie out, and you know, and I went and I got myself a nice car, bro. You know, I'm sending my wife money, like you know, like from all these weird places, bro. Like I'm out in some random state, and just send her something from over there. So like, even my own family's like, "What the heck are you doing?"
Yeah.
Like how did you get over? What are you doing over there? Like
Yeah.
I'm in like Utah or something. You know what I mean? And like you know, or I'm in some other random city, or I'm even here, like I'm in San Gabriel at times. You know what I mean? Like you know, my crimes are throughout, like you know, mostly the like San Gabriel Valley and the LA County area though. But during that time, I'm traveling, I'm going places. You know, like I'm just trying to get away from myself, and like when things are like I feel things are hot.
Yeah.
I'm leaving the state too, you know. So like I'm going over there like from a distance. I'm just watching things and seeing what's going on. I'm talking to some of my homeboys like, air things high, you know, like nah, you know, come around. You know, I'm going around, I'm shooting everybody money, like I'm feeling good about myself in a street aspect.
Yeah.
Like and but inside I'm miserable, bro. Like I'm miserable. Like here I was, I could have had a girl. Even my mom would tell me like she was like so disgusted with me. She was like, "Man, you can't even keep a wife. You know, like you could have had a good thing. You know, you can't keep a job. Like, what are you doing?" And you know, even her, I would just like try to give her money, like you know, just put this away or give this to my kids. You know, and they know what I'm doing. They know I'm not that, but they know I'm doing something. You know,
Yeah.
and like and I was hitting all these banks, bro. And then so anyhow, bro, it's like all this is going on, and like I'm out of state, bro. I'm in another state, and like you know, and my wife, like I said, she had a relationship with God, so it hurt me more when things happened between us
Mm.
because I felt like if you know God so much, how could you do that? You know, but at the same time, it's like she's only a person, bro. You know, she's only just a woman that I hurt.
Yeah.
You know, so like I had to like take that in consideration. So it like kind of affected the way I felt about God too. But what I learned too is like even like when you question and you have anger towards God, like you're kind of right where He wants you because He would prefer that than you not to acknowledge Him at all. You know.
Yeah.
So it was like during that time, like I had these angry feelings with God as well, you know, and I'm still hitting all these licks and I'm doing all this stuff, and like none of it matters to me. I don't care about the money. I don't care about none of it, you know. And like honestly, I just wanted to come home and give it another shot, you know. I didn't want to be doing this stuff, you know.
Yeah.
So it was like when I was out there, bro, like my wife had called me and like all that guilt had gotten to her too, and she's just like, you know what, like let's work out our relationship and let's go back to church, and like I know you're doing something that, you know, like I know you're doing bad things. I've heard some things, you know, and she's like, and I'm sorry for what I did. Like just let's just come home and work this out, you know. And I'm just like, man, you know, like I'm on the sick one by now, you know.
Yeah.
But I was literally on the next thing smoking back home, you know. And when I came home, bro, I had a lot of baggage now, you know, because I had done all this crazy stuff, bro. Like, so I had done all these things and I knew what I had been doing. And so, like, you know, I had to explain a little bit to my wife, you know, because I didn't want, you know, first of all, I didn't want her to know too much because then, you know, like if they ever came, like, it's just better if you don't tell your wife things. And second of all, because, like, I didn't want her to really know exactly what I did because I didn't want that to be the focal point for us to have more reasons to fight about. I kind of wanted us to move forward, but it was kind of hard because now I had some money, first of all,
Yeah.
which I had to dispose of, and you know, by spending fast. And then I also like knew that I had did things that they possibly might come back and try to get me later.
Yeah.
And so, like, you know, a little bit of time went by, and during that time, like I had cleaned up my act. We went back to church, bro, and like things were like starting to feel good. And so one day I was about to get this new job, bro, and this black dude had interviewed me, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I was just grateful because he was gonna give me a chance, man, you know. And they went and fitted me for the uniform, and like I remember I went to the interview and like they told me everything's all good, like you're gonna get this job, like what size do you wear? So I remember I called back that black dude. I'm like, look, man, like I don't know why, because I had conversations with him. He was like the recruiter for the job.
Yeah.
So like we had conversations before, but I felt like you know, because I mean he was a black dude, so I felt like I could talk to him, you know, like maybe about things, because in a professional atmosphere, like, you know, I know he may have experienced a little adversity because I could tell in his voice the way he talks, like he knew what time it was.
Yeah.
You know, so like I told him that, and like he just like, I said, man, so I'm grateful, bro. Like, thank you. God bless you. Like, he got touched by that, bro. And like, you know, over the phone, I could hear it in his voice, like the gratitude. He's like, nobody's ever called me and told me that, man. He's like, you know, I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that not only do you get that job, but you get a good position, you know?
Yeah.
And so, like, I remember I hung up the phone and I was feeling good, bro. Like, you know, like just my old self, like part of me thought about using, because like that was just how I celebrated.
Celebration, yeah.
But that was like, you know, I stripped down to my boxers, like old prison days, and just start cleaning the house to get that thought out of my head. And then, like, I remember I picked up my Bible, bro, because I was praying, and I read this scripture. I don't know the exact words, bro, but I remember it was Ecclesiastes 8, verse 11, bro. And it says something about if crime goes unpunished, that, like, you'll think it's okay for the next time and your days won't be long, you know? And I thought, like, dang, you know, like, I knew I did all this dirt, bro. And like the night before, I remember seeing on the news about some dude that got caught for these bank robberies, you know what I mean? And so like I got paranoid because I heard a helicopter overhead, and my wife's like, what's wrong with you, you know? And I'm like, nothing, you know? But in my mind, I'm thinking like, dang, you know, any day now they could come and get me, you know, like it could all be over. And I was like, you know, we can't be telling people anything, you know, like, because you never know, like, who's going to give you, like, and I didn't know if they were looking for me or not, bro. So, like, I was just letting time go by. So, I started to think, like, dang. So, I remember I prayed and I told God, like, you know what, God, if that's what I got to do to have peace, then, like, do what you got to do, man. Like, if you got to take me to jail to pay for this, or just something so, like, I can have closure to this and move forward in my life, then, like, let's get it going, you know?
Yeah.
And so, like, my wife came home from work, and, you know, and I was like, I was listening to Christian music even, and I know she just, like, she probably felt proud of me at that moment, you know? And, like, so we went to the market, and, like, I don't know, like, that day I felt like how, you know, when you first get out, you want to try all these, like cool, like, new candy bars.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I think Oreo had, like, a new candy bar out or something, and I was like, oh, let me get that, you know? Like, I want to try this type of ice cream, And then I started feeling guilty. I wanted to put some of it back because I was like, man, that's expensive. And she's like, no, just get it. Like, she wanted me to have these things. And so, like, so we're going home from the market, bro. And then, like, we're having a conversation, almost like an argument, because, we still had to iron out some issues.
Mm.
And then when we get out of the car, bro, like, we go to get it, and she's walking. Like, I just felt a gun to the back of my head, bro. Honestly, I wasn't sure if somebody was going to take me out, And then I just started, like, freeze, mother effer, put your hands up, and this, and that. I'm taking the groceries out the back of the Tahoe, so, like, my hands are kind of up. And, like, the whole block just lit up, bro. And it's like, my wife, I hear her screaming. I'm like, don't do nothing to my wife, And I look, and then I realized it was, like, some task force that came to get me, bro. And, like, they're like, get on the ground, like, oh, we got you now. Like, like, you ain't going nowhere. Like, you ain't going nowhere for a long time, like, your life is over. Like, people want to see you, like, suits and ties, mother effer. That's all they kept telling me, suits and ties.
Yeah.
I'm like, just stop already, bro. Like, because I had to process what was going on. And, like, they were doing the job. Like, I'm never mad at law enforcement. They do what they gotta do, bro. But these
I kind of get mad at them. I'll tell you why, dog. It seems like they take shit a little bit too personally sometimes. Like, dog, you got me. Yeah, you got me. Like it is what it is. Yeah. Now let the justice system play out.
Exactly. Yeah. You're right. But see, with these dudes, they were this thing they were called the Major Crimes Task Force. I never heard of them, right? So these dudes are like, they're like a different breed, bro. They look like MMA fighters, right? So it's like, once all the dust settled.
Yeah, a bunch of fucking
knuckleheads.
Yeah, fucking roided out jackasses and shit.
Okay.
Yeah.
So these dudes, like, I could tell some were like that, but then, like, this one guy, like a couple of them, the ones that were driving me, they were like, look, bro, like, it's nothing personal. Like, our hearts racing too when we're coming to get you. And it's like, but now, like, now that you're gone, he was, like, kind of giving me advice. Like, he was putting me up on a little game as to what I should say. Like, I wasn't going to say nothing anyways, but he's like, look, bro, like, they know a lot, but they don't know a lot. Yeah. And he kind of, like, and then he told me, like, he's like, who did this ink? And, like, he told me that, like, somebody that I knew had did some ink on his arm. He's also that, he's like, I'm just telling you, like, I'm a regular person like you, bro. And he's like, this is the job I chose. To me, it's exciting. He's like, I'm out here, like involved with this thing. He's like, but when my days off, I'm having a beer. He's like, I got my ink from somebody, like, the dude he mentioned, like, I knew.
Yeah.
And, like, he's like, and some stuff had happened with that guy, and he knew about that too. And he's like, and honestly, I don't care about all that. He's like, like, this, like I punched in today. Like, getting you was part of my job. So I was just like, all right, whatever,
Yeah.
And, like, but then he started telling me a little bit about, like, about God, like, he told me his mom was strung out or something like that. And, God was the one that helped her through her situation. So anyhow, like, I'm going to the station now. I'm thinking, like, man, it's over,
Yeah.
Like, like, I don't know what type of time they're going to throw at me. I already had a strike on my book, so I'm like, I don't know what, like, I'm going to get broke off,
Yeah.
And then, so anyhow, like, I'm going to just, like, real quick, like, what happened, like, because to me, it was a miracle, So, I got let up. No, I'm just kidding.
Imagine, let me out the next day.
I just got let me out right there.
They're like, hey, don't even trip. We'll pay back the money.
Yeah, we got you. Yeah, no, that didn't happen. But so I go to court, which is like, and then so I go to the county, all this stuff. I call my wife, the jailer, like, he's telling me about God, and he's telling me, like, all this stuff, like he took time off of, like, 'cause he was already supposed to, like, be getting out for the day. And the other jailer was trying to be a jerk and take my wedding ring from me. And I was like, I reached back in because, like, when you're going to jail, you're about to get stripped from your whole dignity. Bro.
Yeah.
So, like, the last thing I wanted, because I wasn't sure if I'll see my wife again, was my wedding ring, And so, like, he tried to take it off of my hand, and I put my hand back in the cage. And I was like, you might as well just come in here and try to take my whole hand off. I ain't giving it to you, And because I know I could have a ring in there, And that jailer was like, hey, leave him alone, And he's like, aren't you supposed to be home? He's like, yeah, And he's like, but I was talking to him.
Yeah.
And so, like, he continues telling me, like, that God could change my life. And he's telling me about some people that he knows that had done a lot of time and, like, are in his church. And even the church that he was talking about was a church that my wife had visited. So like, I felt a little comforted during that time, because like everything's uncertain. You know how it feels when you don't even know what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
All you know is you did some serious stuff. So like, like sure enough, that was a long night, bro. Cause like there's all these agencies like all over from everywhere coming at me. Like they even had a name for me, the back and forth bandit. And I was like, what the heck? Like, where'd you get that from? You couldn't have thought of something better. And they were like, no, it's because you hit the same spot twice, and that's how messed up I was, bro. I
Damn.
hit the same spot twice, and like I didn't even realize that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was just doing it that much, and they basically had 7 of them on me at that point.
Yeah.
And so they're asking me stuff, and I'm like, look, I don't know nothing. I was like, if you, because they said we got you on camera. I was like, if you got me on camera, then you know the whole story.
Yeah.
Like don't try.
You don't need me anymore.
You ain't gotta, you ain't gotta try to tie me to nothing or nobody. And like even that alone in itself was a relief, because I knew basically I wasn't gonna have to answer any questions, and I knew that they weren't gonna try to tie anybody to any of my cases or vice versa, and I wasn't gonna be put in the position like when you have crimies, where they're gonna try to make some leverage with them. Like I just knew like I was gonna have to deal with this. And somehow in my heart, I felt I wasn't going to be on my own, because I knew, like, even though all this was happening, God was with me. Because here these 2 men were so far, just on my right there the whole time, were telling me about the Lord, And my wife told me, like, I'm going to stick with you through this, And so, like, anyhow, we were both, like, going through the whole court time. And we were praying, bro, during that time. And, and when I'm in the county, bro, like, I'm feeling the loss, but I'm used to always being like really sick from dope.
Yeah.
And this time I'm not sick like that. Like I said, I had already stopped, so my body's going through a little bit of changes, just because from all the times I had used prior to that, I didn't have much time sober, so like it's not that, it's like a different type of feeling that I was having in the county, like, and I was feeling bad for a lot of people, and I wasn't trying to be all involved. Like how I had always been, like, I'm like, oh, I'm such and such for so-and-so, and I just meet up, and then, we just take it from there, and we do our time, and we act like it's nothing, and it didn't feel like it was nothing, because it felt like it was something. Every minute, every moment felt critical, bro. Like, and I was around, like, I did run into a lot of good homies, bro. Like it was few and far in between, because I didn't recognize a lot of the people I had seen in there, bro. Like, the faces had changed, like everybody had face tats, bro. It's like they had no other tattoos but face tats. Yeah, like dudes that took off their shirts. And I remember there was even some dude in there that, like, I remember I had seen him like 15 years ago, and I told him, like, he wasn't even from his neighborhood yet. And I was like, homie, you're a truck. You shouldn't even be from a gang, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know what you're doing. Like, get your head right, man, and read a book, And we got into whatever, and like, he got beat up, and I was like, look, bro, like, you get, like, who gets himself beat up? Like, what are you doing? And then here he was facing the death penalty, bro.
Damn.
The same kid, and he remembered that. He's like, I remember when you told me not to get from a neighborhood, bro. And I was like, dang, like, I felt bad for the kid, So, like, I'm not thinking too much of my own situation. Like, I'm looking at everybody around me, and I'm feeling something for a lot of these kids, bro. And I'm like, man, like, these kids are they ain't knowing what they're doing, bro. Like, like, it's even beyond the point of lacing them up, bro. Like,
yeah, because they're gone.
Yeah, they're gone, bro. Like, even the section I was at, like, in the county in Supermax, was on the top tier, and it was like, the little corner was kind of like, because how we segregated and all that, so it was kind of like right before where the blacks sleep, right? And like the homies were so loud, bro, like all through the night. And they're using that N-word all day and stuff like that. And I heard one of the blacks, like he told his homies, like, oh, you a weird-ass nigga, right? And then, like, the other black was like, hey, don't even use that word, because that's an essay thing, bro. We don't even say that no more.
Damn.
And I was like, is that bad in here, bro? Like, I was just, like, tripped out. And then, so, like, I ran into a few heads that, like, I had recognized from back in the days, being busted, like, a couple of older cats from Sanford and from Wilmas, and they were in there, and they were basically being tried on their past, like.
That's fucked up, yeah.
Yeah, like the homie, I hope he made it out, Junior from Wilmas, like, they were trying to give him 10 years for driving, when you drive in a car and they tell you to pull over and you don't.
Yeah.
Like there were 10 years for that, bro, because of his record. You know, like come on, like that's out of line right there. You know,
Yeah, hell yeah.
and that's a good homie, and he been around. You know, so like I ran into very few homies that I recognized. You know, like it looked like I was completely out of my element, bro, and the way I felt. Like I look at these kids like that the next guy coming up in here could be my son. You
Damn.
know what I mean? Like and like that's how I felt like old, you know, like what am I doing in here? Like and here I might get like the rest of my life, you know, like oh man, like I don't know how I'm gonna do that, you know. And I wasn't expecting my wife to stay around because I've been told her like, look, if you want to go, like now's the time, before we get too much into this. And she's like, no, I'm not gonna do that, you know what I mean? And so I'm just trying to focus on my health, just start working out and reading and drawing the things I like to do, bro. And so like when the date is coming up for my court date, like they were offering me like 13 years, so I was like, that ain't too bad, you know.
It really isn't if you think about it. Yeah.
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 For 7 of them, and they
Yeah.
were gonna drop 3 of them, and so 4, like so 13. That's not too bad. And then they even went so far as to say like 8 years or something, you know. So
Damn. I'd have
yeah.
probably jumped on the low key like a jackass.
Okay, so that I was about to, bro.
Yeah.
All right, so now you see where I'm coming from. So like,
Yeah.
but see, the system has changed a lot, bro, and I'm gonna explain to you a little more how it's changed. So like, here we go, bro. Like, my wife's like, let's fast. That's something that you do in the church. Is like, because when you deny your body food, like it's a health thing too. Because like, not only does your body burn out impurities, but also while you're burning out those impurities, you're denying yourself, like you're disciplining yourself, but you're denying the body it's like natural requirements. So you're like telling, like your mind is telling your body like no, you know what I mean? So it's like within yourself, you're opening up like these different facets to your mind. So if you're doing it in a spiritual sense, like you're depending on your spirit to tell your body like you're not gonna eat right now.
Yeah.
So it's like the way I look at it is like, God loves us all, right? And like, so he's looking at us, but like, so let's just say like there's 3 of you and you guys are all praying to God, like, yeah, okay, he's listening to your prayers, but then he sees that one dude that's fasting. He's like, okay, look, that's my boy right there. Like, I'm going to try to get a little closer to him because I see that he's trying to, like, he doesn't even want to deal with food even right now because he's just like trying to get to me, So I looked at it like, like, okay, so I'm going to fast, and I'm going to ask God, like, like, help me with this situation. And it sounds funny because that's what we do when we get in trouble.
Yeah.
We do pray to God. We like all of a sudden, you know what I mean? And it's like, and I didn't want to be like that either. That's why I never ever said like I was Christian in jail or none of that,
Yeah.
Like, cause I didn't want to be looked at like that, dude, But when like I always told the homies, like, if you talk to me long enough, after a while, you're gonna hear like about God, though. So anyhow, here we are fasting, bro, and then like I was just asking God, like, what do you think is fair, in my mind and my heart, whether he speaks back to me or not. I feel like the conscious, the voice I hear inside is how God speaks to me,
Yeah.
And something in my heart told me, like, you're only going to do 5 years, And so, like, when I called my wife, I was like, what do you think, And she's like, well, God told me a number, And she said the same thing, which was 5 years. And so when I go to court, they're talking about 8, And then, and that was good, from 13 down to 8.
Yeah.
So I'm like getting ready to sign and jump on it. I go, look, if you could just give me 5 and I'll take 2 more strikes, which technically leaves me as like being struck out, like on layaway.
Yeah.
Then I'll take that right now, 5 and a signature and 2 more strikes, And so they were like, I doubt it, but and so they go talk. And when they like come back in front, they don't say they're gonna take it or not.
Yeah.
There's not even there's no signature. Usually they come in with the paper with your deal and all that. And so the judge wanted to give me a speech beforehand, and he was a Raza judge, and I gave it to him, bro, because like I could feel like he was somewhat trying to look out for his people, and he was just saying like he started naming off all these crimes, and I could see like all those guys I was telling you about in that department, they're all in the audience, and I could see they're looking at me like angry with disgust and mad,
Yeah.
that I was even getting some type of love or break, and like, and he basically told me to do better with my life, and like, I'm gonna give you 5 years. And he said the laws are changing where you could probably even go to fire camp and get out sooner than that, 5 with 80.
So you didn't go to there was no Fed time, it was state time?
State time, bro, because some of those banks, they're like small corporations where they're funded
Oh, so
through
they're not
like
FDIC and yeah.
exactly, bro. They're
Okay.
not. Oh yeah, you know about the banks, though.
Yeah. They're not FDIC insured.
Hmm.
Yeah, because that's when they take the money because the government got to give that shit back. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even on my pleas, the way they arranged it, which I knew was a blessing because they kicked a lot of these cases out, but when they kicked it out, they kicked out a lot of the restitution. So I didn't
Mm.
even I mean, I owed a considerable amount, but it wasn't that much, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't too bad, you know? But, so yeah, so like here I am, like you said, that's another blessing too, you know? State time, 5 years. What basically I feel God has spoken in my ear. And then, you know, like I don't have to give back that much money. So I signed, bro, let's get this cracking, you know?
Yeah.
And so when I get to there, like, you know, like I do see the system, like I said, there's a lot of changes, but not only that, the way they do the point system now. So like, you know, so when I get to reception and all that, I'm right there and like, you know, I wasn't tripping. I felt comfortable. This is the first time I ever really felt like I didn't have nothing to really worry about.
Yeah.
I was almost excited. Like I'm like, let's get this going. Like yeah, I was stressed out a little bit because I didn't see my wife and all that, and I wanted, like you know, and I missed my kids. But like I'm reading these like awesome books, bro. Like you know, I'm around some good homies, you know, and like we're having some good conversation, you know. Like I mean, like I met some good dudes, bro, you know, and man, like I'm trying to think of like my boy, little sniper from East Side Anaheim. Like there's just a couple homies I met that stood out to me, you know.
Yeah.
And like I was able to share with them and get to know them better, and we you know like share with them the books that I like to read, and like how I share with you that book, like
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
me, bro. Like I like to like spread literature, you know.
Yeah.
So like you know I not on all these David Icke books, you know. Like I got them reading like that book I gave you, As a Man Thinketh, you know, like James Allen books. There's a couple Christian books. It's John Eldridge. It's you know like all these different authors. Anyhow, like you know I just was saying that so like maybe people could look these books up. You
Yeah,
know what
yeah,
I mean?
definitely.
You know, but that was a good author, bro. Like you know and so anyhow I was able to share. So like I'm not really tripping, you know. But the way they do the point system is different because you know now like that I'm older and stuff. And I had been out of prison. I had went to the county, but I had been out of actual prison for a while.
Yeah, they
So
see you as less of a threat now.
less of a threat, you know. So like, so now they gave me basically level 3 points, and they're sending me to Susanville, and it's like I'm like 2 points away from being able to go to fire camp. So they're like, you know, you're gonna go to Susanville and you could get to fire camp, you know. So they're like, and I never been to fire camp, bro. You know, I had always been on 3 yards and got in trouble, went to a 4 yard, whatever, and then so like, you know, I was like, man, that sounds. I heard so many stories, man. It was like, you know, all the homies back in the day, like, you know, like. I thought there was something, but this whole time they were all going to fire camp, and here I was going. These dudes I looked up to that I thought were like putting it down, they were going to fire camp the whole time. They were going to jail.
Yeah.
They were coming out super healthy and with all this money. So I was like, "Ooh, I'm about to get some of that, you know." And so like, you know, I looked at that was another blessing, you know. So anyhow, boom, I get to Susanville. You know, I never even been that far, and it was cool. It was nice, you know.
Yeah.
But I knew I had to be there for a little bit of time because my points had to come down. You know, so while I'm there, again, like I said, I didn't see too many people I recognize. But when I do, it's like, you know, like Husky from Redondo was there, and like that's a good homie, bro. And like I known him since we were kids because that's where my dad was from.
Yeah.
And so he knew who my family was. So, like, you know, there was Q from Wilmas right there. Like, and I always vibe with them dudes from the Harbor area because my family has those ties.
Yeah.
And I didn't see none of my homeboys there, like you know, which is kind of good, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, because I was, like I said, I was on some new thing. And so like the homie kind of puts me into like helped me get a good job. Like he put me into a spot where I could like majorly mess things off and get it cracking, or I could do my time smooth, you know.
Yeah.
And so like while I'm there, I started like I guess I started feeling it because then now I'm thinking like I'm kind of old, man. By the time I get out, you know, I'm gonna be like almost 50. You know what I mean? Like I started thinking like, and I started feeling a little depressed, bro. And then and so like, you know, like my kids they're like upset, and like, you know, I'm going through little things with my wife, and like I don't know what it was, bro, but the position I was in, I was able to like get myself in the mix.
Yeah.
And so like I never said I was Christian when I went in there, but I was reading my Bible. There was like a homie that was going through something, and I remember I even prayed with him, you know, like on the yard, bro. and I had never done that before, and I felt so good about myself for that, you know. And so like, but secretly inside, I was feeling this depression, bro, you know.
Yeah.
And I see how a lot of these guys that were there that didn't even know me were kind of looking up to me because like I was just the older homie, so they're giving me all this love and stuff, you know. And then there were things that were happening there, you know. People were doing stuff, and so like you know, the homies like, look, you know, like I'm gonna hook you up with these people, and you know, and I should have just made the right decision, and I started getting involved in the whole drug thing in there,
Yeah.
you know, again, bro, because that was how I dealt with my problems, bro. And so like anyhow, while I'm in there, I started using again, and I started like moving it, you know, like, you know, my wife is like wondering what's going on because like I'm just sending her like giving her like things that she, and I'm lying, you know. I'm saying that I did this drawing. She's like, nobody's gonna give you that for doing drawings. And she just
Yeah.
finally she's like, you know what? If this is what you're gonna do while you're in here, like I don't want nothing to do with you then, because you're
Yeah.
doing the same thing
Yeah, you're
again,
not taking the change seriously.
the same thing again. And so during this time, bro, like I got strung out in there too, and like, you know, and I had like almost more drugs than what I had in the streets, bro.
Yeah.
And we're doing it, you know. And then so it was like during that time, like I wasn't trying to think about everything because I had just got into that depression, and then I was just in that cycle. But I knew I wanted to stop. I knew that's not what I signed up for because God had blessed me all that way, and I knew I didn't want to continue doing those things again, you know. But so I remember I called home, bro, and like you know, I got some news that, you know, one of my daughters had like, you know, basically tried to take her life, bro,
Damn.
and she you know, was being abused, and she admitted to it, like, you know, by a family member, and like you know, and so like, man, you know, like you know, my wife, you know, kind of got involved with her, and started helping her, and I didn't have much of a relationship with her, you know. And I remember that day, like, you know, back then, like when you go out to use the phone in the evening calls, they pop you out at night, and then so you go and you gotta wait sometimes like a half hour, and then like if you don't make the next unlock, you're stuck out there because it's so cold in Susanville that they ain't trying to walk,
Yeah.
you know. So it's like it was snowing that night, bro, and it was freezing cold, and you know, and my wife wanted to leave me, and you know, and I found out all this news about my daughter, and I thought about my own life, and I was stuck, you know, out there on the yard. And I remember I'm walking around the yard, and it's like snowing, and I'm freezing, and I'm
Walking
thinking,
all alone in the cold and shit.
yeah,
That's
all
kind of crazy.
depressed,
Yeah.
you know, like it's like that song, like, you know, you could cry in the rain because you're
Yeah.
gonna hide your tears type thing. And I remember one of the homies seeing me like that, and I just told him what was going on because I couldn't hide it, you know. And like he just kind of, and that's why I got love for the homie. I could never ever say I don't, bro. Like I remember he just gave me that homie hug, bro, and he's like, you know what, like I've been around you, bro, like just during this time, and like you're a good dude, bro. He's like, I seen what you do for people, and he's like, I see that you're tired. He's like, you know, like focus on your family, and like, you know, like that dude, like I would do little drawings and we share tips, and he's like, you teach me how to draw, like. He's like, come on, bro, like that, you know, like look at you, man. Like I know you ain't happy. He knew I was strung out in there, and he's like, you just like hang it up, you know. And so I did, bro. Like I stopped, you know, I stopped using in there, and like then like and it was like a miracle because like next week I went to committee, and like and there was more stuff that happened in there, bro. That like I almost got cracked, you know, doing this stuff because like, all these dudes were doing everything wrong, bro, in there.
Yeah.
And I felt like that was part of the reason why I got involved was like, you know, these dudes are trucking it, man. Like, you know, like get it together, do it right. And like everything I predict that said what happened to most of these dudes because of the way they were doing things.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you know, that little bit of assertiveness got things a little more straight, you know. So anyhow, like I just knew that that's not what I really wanted, bro, you know. And again, the warped sense of like what's right and what's wrong. Like that's still wrong, even though you're trying to do it for what you're telling yourself is the right reasons, like, you know. And I wasn't doing it to be a hog, to be greedy with drugs or anything like that, you know. So like I had to make a decision, bro, and you know, and I gave it up. And then while I was in there, they came to the committee and basically, you know, like, you know, you're going to fire camp, you know, start shaping up, and like that training is treacherous, bro. Like
Yeah. I know. I failed.
Oh yeah, you felt PFT? What?
I went to a YA fire camp.
Oh, is that right?
And,
Oh, that's tough though.
Yeah, in Ponderosa and Preston, and it sucks because as soon as I got there, they to say your YA number, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, we're talking about YA number 84568. And they're like, that's not a new YA number. Where you coming from? I said, I'm coming from
Yeah.
Nellis.
Yeah.
And they said, you're not gonna make it.
Because
I
you
said,
are
what?
you
Yeah,
were thought you a troublemaker or
yeah,
what?
well, Nellis is a fucked up institution. They said nobody makes it here from Nellis. You guys don't have any discipline. I was like, I'm gonna make it. Nah, I had no discipline, dog. So I learned quickly. Like they shipped me out to YTS after that. Like, fuck out of here.
And see, I mean, I would have probably did the same thing when I was a kid, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's because I'm older now, you know, and I feel like that's why this happened, you know. And so, you know, when I actually get to the fire camp, bro, and it was like one of the most beautiful places I had been in my life, you know, and it was awesome, bro. Like, I mean, we're up in it's in Mendocino County. It was called Chamberlain Creek. It's not even around them, bro. Like the whole system changed, cause like, you know, like, well, we'll get into that right now too. But so anyhow, yeah, I'm in the most, like, one of the only rainforests left on the earth, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's like a beautiful place, man. Like, you know, like it's fresh air, it's redwood trees, there's like a creek that goes there, there's deer, you could feed turkeys. Like, I'm like, this is doing time, you know? Like,
Yeah.
it was cool, man, you know? So, like, and then not that, like, when you go fight these fires, like, you know, because, like, I was on the fire crew, and then also when I was there, I had gotten a water treatment certificate. So I did a little in camp work too, but I was on a fire crew, bro. And so it's like I was like during that time I was just working out, bro. So I was like taking care of myself, and they had weights there too, you know. Like
Yeah.
it was like it was a trip, bro. I never been in nothing like that, and you know, and all the stuff I had gone through to get there. And so like that's why I was like, I'm gonna shut it down, like, cause there were some dudes there that were trying to be hard still, and I was like, come on, you don't knock it off, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
like there were some youngsters there that really impressed me, like, you know, like I remember little Rocky from Bassett, like that's my boy. I knew his dad, you know, I grew up basically with his dad, and like there was like, you know, like somehow like, you know, like his boys was one of the ones I had hung out with when I was doing all that dirt.
Yeah.
So when I seen like little Rocky there, you know, like you know, like he was just like, he excelled too when he was there, you know, because he was a boxer. And so like, you know, the PFT and all, like, you know, like for some of us it was like we knew that we were being blessed, bro.
Yeah.
Like we knew we were getting it, you know. So like, you know, when we were like in training, like it was nothing, bro. Like, you know, like even though these guys were young, I would just like for being in my 40s, I would hike right past them. And
Yeah.
like, you know, I would carry things that were like, they had this thing, it's called the piss pump, bro. And it's like, if you've been on the fire camp, you'll know, but it's like, it's an extra thing of water. So it's like up to like 40 pounds at times. And you already got your gear, which is like 30 pounds. And you're hiking up hills that are like this, bro.
Yeah, you got to wear the boots, the canteen,
All
the
that.
fucking helmet, your
No
fucking,
meds,
yeah,
all that,
shit,
bro.
yeah.
Yeah, so like, you know, you got all this stuff on, you're working in extreme heat. And it's like, dudes are half my age, bro. And I'm with the piss pump, my tool, everything, hiking right past them, you know, because I was just happy to be there, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like I wasn't, and I had been clean. I was off of drugs, you know what I mean? And so like, so when I was at that camp, like, you know, we went to some fires, and like I never even seen fires like that, bro. They're like the size of Walmart, you know,
Yeah.
just mowing everything down, and you hear the trees come down, and then when you're done fighting that fire, like you sleep on the mountain, bro.
Did you ever have to deploy that little
Oh,
the little bag thing?
No, that's
Yeah.
like that's like, when
last
you're gonna
resort,
die, bro.
yeah.
Yeah. Like, I mean, they have that movie Only the Brave or whatever, and like all those dudes deployed the fire shelter. That's what it is. But,
Yeah, fire shelter. Yeah, there we
yeah,
go.
no, that's like last resort, bro. Like
Yeah,
you're about to die. Like
Some guy told me, well, not some guy, the fucking the trainer guy.
Yeah.
We were in there. I was like, oh shit, the fire, and he yanked it out because he told us hold on to that shit tight.
Yeah.
And I was just fucking around, and he's like, you would have burned to death. And I was like, damn, calm down.
Yeah,
fool.
he ain't playing.
Yeah.
He would, bro. Like, hey, cause like okay, like a good like the first fire we went on, bro. Like, so we're up there, and it's somewhere by Oregon. I don't even know these places,
Yeah.
man. Like, we were way out there though. So anyhow, we're up there, and like it kind of got out of control. So, but it was like a grass fire, but it spread into this part where there's these trees, you know.
Yeah.
So like some dudes are not knowing what to do. But I feel like if we've been under extreme situations, like we've been under fire basically.
Yeah.
And so like somehow like I could function under like that extreme stress.
Yeah.
And I could think of like what I need to do, you know, which so like boom, so like I go towards that fire, and like, you know, we're taking it out, and it's like, and it's just blowing up in our faces, bro. And it's like, you know, and it was out of control, and the captain was like, you know, get the F out of here, and I threw me. And then, like, you know, it's a blanket of smoke, and you can't see nothing. And some people peed on themselves and panicked and ran away from the fire over there, but like a few was went in there. And so anyhow, like, we run and you can't see nothing, it's smoke, you can't breathe, and you're like hyperventilating because you can't see nothing, you can't breathe, and it's like a scary moment, bro. And like, all I knew was I was following the captain, so I could see like his tail. Like I even knew to like pick up a gas can that somebody had abandoned on the
Oh,
ground.
it's gonna blow up. Yeah,
like, but obviously that dude did. He just threw it and ran.
Through the gas tank and the chainsaw too. Fucking.
I mean, I look at it as like sometimes when things are. That's why like I always use analogy. Like some people like under extreme situations, they'll just pick up their lives and run and kind of leave you, bro.
Yeah.
And it's like being in the neighborhood, being around people like that are honorable like that, like we don't do that, bro. Like like we'll stay there with you. It's like like if you're stuck in a hole, like I'll jump in that hole with you and we'll figure out how to get out there together. And sometimes it's sad to say, but like you could even step on my back and get out of there, bro, and then, like just go tell somebody to come back and get me.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of like the mentality we have. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, well, that's a mentality I had and a lot of my friends did. And that's why, like, like it hurts when I hear, like, even my wife sometimes, because she'll be like, like, why do you give your love to these people? It's not so much as how they're living their lives today. It's just because I know, because I've been in situations like that. And some of us, we do take a change for the worse and drugs, and all that stuff, so like that's not always going to stay like that. But for the most part, that was the mentality, bro. That was the intention. That's what it was supposed to be. You know what I'm saying? So it's like in this fire camp, you develop this camaraderie as well with a lot of these guys, and they're from different ethnicities too. They're and like people that I wasn't used to of associating with. And like I said, I put a lot of things to the side to be part of this crew and like to be in these awesome situations. And like, and during that fire, what I was saying, like, we hit the ground and like, you put a little bit of water and dig a hole in the dirt and you're inhaling the oxygen from that. And you're able to gain your senses back and you can see what's going on. But that was my first fire, bro. And then, like, that night, we scraped a little plot and, you sleep on the dirt and, like, your blanket is like the stars, bro. And, like, you're under, like, 1,000,000,000 stars. And it was, like, it was an awesome experience, bro. And I thought, like, dang, like, if I robbed banks to get here, like, like, that, like, God is real. There wasn't too much, like, too much question about it, man. Like, not only am I going to be going home soon and, not like I didn't always do the right thing when I was there. I don't want to say I was like, but like I knew that I had an opportunity and I was taking advantage of it. Like I said, while I was there, I had gotten my certificate as a water treatment operator, because like, like basically any form of water is contaminated these days, like any natural source needs some type of treatment. So I wanted to learn that process and get a job in that field, and like, the sad thing about this fire camp is that right before I left, they started doing this 50-50 stuff, bro. Mm-hmm. And it's like these yards they're changing. That camp is not even there no more. Like, so it's like these yards are all becoming like non-designated, and the homies ain't getting a chance to go there, bro. Like, because it's like, it's I don't even know how the whole thing works. Yeah. All I know is that like it didn't really take. It was just barely starting when I left. So like, from what I see now, it's like it's just out of control. I don't even know exactly what's going on, and like I would like to say like I got off like scot free and just did that time, but like even right before I was going home, bro, like they came and got me and refiled another robbery on me, and like and it hurt, it hurt because I was out there and they took me back to the county, bro. I was already situated and. They were talking about all this time and I was stressed out, and they ended up just giving me another year, but it was like, I kind of looked at it like, like I knew I wasn't ready to be getting out either. And I knew during that time, like I said, I had made some compromises and was messing around. So it didn't hit me like that, but I had to go back to the county and I went back to reception again and I ran into some of the same old knuckleheads in there. Yeah. And like, and like everybody was like, like they were saying like, you couldn't be in camp no more and all this stuff. And like, and like I said, it hadn't fully changed because we were in the actual camp. So it was like, like the homies were just basically like, hey man, like, like you're going to go back over there. Like, you're already on your way out. Cause at this point I literally have months to go, so it's like, just do your time and do your thing and get out. You know what I mean? And it's like, and I did, bro. And like it's sad to say, like now the system is changed. You know, like I don't like from what I know, like all those are 50-50s now, and it's like, and that's a whole nother topic, bro. Like you
Yeah.
know, like maybe that's like a conversation. You know, you get in with somebody that knows more about the laws, but I think that's like really unfair, bro. Like that's not right. You know what I mean? Like to force somebody to make that decision on top of like just trying to do the right thing, because that camp was such a good experience, and I think if I would have gotten that sooner, like who knows, you know,
Yeah.
because I learned how to work in that, you know,
Yeah.
I
You learned
learned,
about discipline, all that shit.
yeah, I learned how to stretch yourself. Like there's like the captain used to tell me there's like a military saying like you know we only use like 40% of our mental and our physical capacity. So when you feel like you're whooped, like you got a whole nother 60% left, you know.
Yes,
And so,
sir.
yeah, I never thought of those things, you know. So like I mean we're pushing ourselves when we're out there, and so like I learned how to do that, you know, and those are things that are to this day are carrying me through in life. And I don't accredit it to the camp, but I credit to the whole process
The
and
whole experience.
the whole experience, bro. And like so that like what I'm saying is a blessing, and it sucks because due to the system and the changes and money, like I said, that camp's not even there. You could look up Chamberlain Creek; it's not even a fire camp. Like people don't get sent there no more.
Damn.
And, yeah, so it sucks, you know. And a lot of those are shut down, and like I said, the ones that are open are like considered 50-50 now. So the homies don't even go there, and it's sad, you know, because like I mean like I said, like my heart will always be like that, you know. Like
Yeah.
if I have something good, you know, like I'm gonna want to share it with who I feel is worthy of it. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
You know, it's just like I don't just leave, like even when I have stuff to give, like I don't just drop off like stuff I have to donate. Like I know somebody that will appreciate it, and I give it to them, even if it's like some dude that's been living on the side of the street, and I see him right there every day. You know, like I know that dude's gonna appreciate this. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. What happened when you got out? Have you stayed out?
Yeah, I've been out. So like, okay, so when I got out, bro, uh, I mean, I went to work right away. I went to work right away, and a bit of advice, like for people listening, of course, going to work, but like as men, we need to like not be ashamed to admit that sometimes, like if we're struggling, especially when it comes to like maybe mental things,
Yeah.
you know, and so like you know, we don't want to ever admit that, you know, so we don't seek the help we need. And at the time I still had a lot of disagreements, you know, with my wife. So like, you know, like as far as agreeing on things, and of course I had destroyed all trust that we ever had, you know.
Yeah.
So for her to trust me, and I just kind of like had the mentality of just push through it, not say a word. Like I was kind of like emotionless, you know, like when I got home, a little maybe the after effects, you know. But so anyhow, I messed up a little bit, bro. You know, I messed up a little bit after a couple months, you know.
Yeah.
And during that time, like you know, like I just could never see myself like I never went back to my neighborhood, you know. But it was the drugs, you know. And I could never see myself ever like living a life like how I was anymore.
Yeah.
So like, you know, immediately like I started taking the actions to get back on track, you know.
Yeah.
And so like, you know, I'm going, I work, you know, I never missed a day of work, you know. So like at this job that I'm at, you know, I've been there for a while. It's, you know, I've been out for like going on my second year now, you know. And you know, I've been clean for months now, you know. And it's like and I wish I could say that I had longer time, you know. But as far as experience in making changes, because when you make a change in your life, it's some people it happens like overnight or it happens right away.
Yeah.
But some people it's a lot of
Yeah.
small changes that amount to one big change that everybody can see, including yourself. You know, because there's times when I'm going to work, and like at the end of the day, you know, like I'm in my own car, it's insured. You know, we're under our own roof. You know, we choose what we want to eat, me and my wife, and it's me and her, and you know, and we sit there on the couch with the watching the TV with the cable bill that we paid, and at the end of the day, like we decide we want to go to a Bible study, and I think of all those things as a collective, and I realize like, you know, today was a blessing, today was a miracle. You
Yeah.
know? Like that car made it to work, you know, like this dude put in the whole day issue of work. I didn't go and get high, you know what I mean? I didn't go and use, I didn't lie to my wife today, you know. And at the end of the day, I'm sitting and I'm hearing about God, and I'm surrounded by people that have changed their lives as well, and we're not talking about like nonsense. We're
Yeah.
trying to uplift each other. Like I was telling you, like yesterday, we're at a friend's house and we're looking at he has a nice house, in my eyes, but he had like a nice little like a RV type thing,
Yeah.
and like and those are things that I admire, like and when I came in here, like I saw your collectibles, like like I like your thing. That's
I
what I'm saying.
appreciate that, G. Yeah.
Like all the things that like you're accumulating, but these are the accumulation of things over a period of time that people could have and could do when you have that freedom to make positive choices and to spend your money on positive things. And I see how my life is headed that way. I see how like I'm starting to have little things. I'm starting to I can help people. Like there's like like I don't like talking about the times that I fell, but I have to, like,
Yeah.
because that's like I have to be honest about those
So
things.
I was talking to somebody the other day. She said, like, as long as you embrace it, you're never really failing,
Yeah.
right? Like if you feel you fail and you don't do anything about it, yeah, you failed.
Yeah.
But if you feel you failed and you build off of that shit, it's not really a failure.
Yeah. Oh, good looking now, gracias. Like, I needed to hear that right now because I still like I'm my worst critic. I like to beat myself up over things. But it's like I do other things. Like when I'm with my wife, I'm at home like. I'm watching Bob Ross and stuff like that, and painting,
Yeah.
and doing different things that like I always wanted to do, bro. Like or messing with stuff like to make little things out of wood and giving them to my grandson, and like and I have a grandson, I have grandchildren, like I have these little guys that are looking at us, and and it's like I messed up with my kids, and some of them are upset with me, like they we don't have the relationship that I like to have, but like I have a chance, with my grandson, like I'm able to talk to him and teach him things and tell him things, like little bits and pieces of the morality that I would like to see him with,
That's what I always think. I always think the way to win over your kids if they're older is to their kids, right?
Yeah.
So if you can't go back and be a good father again. That time has probably come and gone, right?
Yeah.
But the way to be a good father again is to be a good great grandfather.
Great-grandfather,
Yeah,
yeah,
and that's gonna
yeah.
win them over.
And one thing though, like I learned about parenting as they've been having older children, like yeah, monetarily you're not gonna be able to, like physically you're not gonna be able to replace that time, but like when I say things like the words I choose to use with them are words that to me are valuable, things
Yeah.
like about God, conversations about life, things that are like to uplift them and help them carry, and like that's the best way to express your love to them, bro, is by sharing those things with them. Like I'm not trying to be their friend and delve into like their world and like agree with everything they do, like when I see them like having a beer or whatever, like I'm not gonna like pull up next to them and have a beer with them, even though I have at times, and like as time goes on now that I'm older, I look at that and I'm just like I'm not gonna condone that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that I like had a beer ever with my kids, but I'm saying there's been times where we've been at functions and I'm drinking, and I'm looking over and they are, and then in my heart I feel like, oh, like like
Yeah.
how are they gonna ever like listen to what I have to say if they see this? So it causes me to check myself because that's not what I want. I don't want to be that kind of dad. You know what I mean? Even though I'm older now and they're older too, I still don't want to be that. So
Yes,
it's like
sir.
I'll try to tell them like hey, look, like it's cool, like yeah, you worked hard and everything, but like you need to start worrying about your health. I'll tell my boy or something like that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Or don't always make that your reward. Like you deserve more than a beer.
Yeah.
Like go buy yourself a cool shirt or something. You know what I mean? And sometimes they don't want to hear about God, so I got to think of creative ways to tell them about that too. Like look at everything you have, look at everything you've been through, son. Like give God a little thanks once in a while. You can honor Him through how you take care of how you carry yourself. How you take care of your health. Like that's giving thanks to God because He created you. So it's like little things like that, bro. So I mean, like yeah, you're right. But I also feel like these are just ways. Like I'm trying to give
Yeah.
examples. Like as to how we could still be, and maybe not make up, but how to be there now.
Yes, sir.
As parents.
Fuck
So
your
you
poofy.
got- the
Yeah.
animal knows that,
Well.
that I'm all right.
Yeah, she usually comes barking like crazy,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's a trip.
Come
But,
in peace.
it's a trip, G. You've come through a lot, and you've overcome a lot, and you're still doing it, and I commend you on that, G. And
Likewise,
I
bro.
appreciate you for telling your story, sharing your knowledge and your time with us, G.
Honestly, bro. I appreciate it, bro. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. And with that, Appreciate you guys chopping up. Just want to shout out the YA babies. Shout out all the nasty crew. And with that, we out. Peace.
All right.
Yeah. Thanks for watching that video. Much love to all the subscribers. Appreciate you guys. Much love to anyone who just checked out the video also. I invite you guys to check out the website if you want to peep any of the merch, incrediblejavier.com. You can just go ahead and click on the catalog, see everything we have to offer. We have new shirts now. We have the Incredible Javier shirt, the logo right there. That's courtesy of Shady Boy. We have that one there. Ooh, we also have the Young OG. The Young OG shirt right there, looking extra fly. We also have the original YA baby shirt. We have it in sleeveless, or we have it in. We actually have the Young OG in sleeveless also. We have that in sleeveless, or we have it on a regular shirt, and we still carry the custom YA baby shirts. So let me go ahead and show you guys how the custom YA baby shirts work. You have the OG YA baby there. What you're gonna go ahead and do is click add to cart. Once you do that, you go ahead and click on the cart. There's gonna be a note section there. Type in your YA number, and then bam, check out. That's how you do it. Much love to everybody. Go ahead and check it out. We got beanies, like I said, tank tops, t-shirts. Hope you guys have a great evening. And with that, we out.